Blessed love, my Lord and Empress, give thanks for life.
My Lord.
And the mighty life giver, Holy Emmanuel, Selassie, Jah,
Jah.
Rastafari.
Rastafari.
This is the African Liberation Network. I'm the host, Prophet Daniel, and this is the Bobo Shanti International Study Group. At this time, I'll turn it over to the leading priest to say the prayer to begin the program, and then we'll go into the topic and reasoning.
Most High, Holy Emmanuel, Selassie,
Jah.
Rastafari.
O Lord, good and how pleasant it is for I and I, virgin and sisters, to dwell together in love and unity. It's like that precious ointment that is upon the head, upon the skirts of your God. It is like that dew that descend upon the mountain of Zion, for dear our Father commanded love, life, his blessings to I and I forevermore. Holy Emmanuel, Selassie,
Jah,
fill our mouths with words, O Father, our minds with clarity, with compassion and love. Adonia, God, Jah,
Rastafari, my Lord. Yes, royal family, give thanks again for, the presence of everyone here in the Zoom and those watching on YouTube now and in the future. Yeah, today's topic is repatriation, which repatriation is the central movement of the Rastafari, whether you call it a religion, a spirituality, a movement, whatever, it's all around repatriation, from the West, out of the Western world, those of us who are descendants of, Africans who were taken away from their homeland and brought down into the West, into slavery, captivity, bondage. And, from the time our first ancestors left the continent, they wanted to return home, and that desire has not left us, their great grandchildren. We still want to go home, so this Rastafari movement and this Bobo Shanti order is strictly about repatriation. Everything else is a side note. Repatriation is the number one call, is the number one action, that we are called to bring about. And really, when we study, King Emmanuel realized that was really most of what he was really all about, not so much the religion part, which we kind of cling to more, but he was more focused on taking us away from the West, and bringing us to Africa, So we intend to, with this study group session, we intend to really reason about what is repatriation, how did it become a part of the Rastafari movement? How did it become a part of the Bobo Shanti order? And what role, not really what role, but what has the Bobo Shanti order done towards repatriation, for all people still, because we say this Congress stands to land every man and woman under their own vine and fig tree. So, international repatriation, we're calling for Black people to go home, Asia for the Asian, Europe for the European, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'll start by saying, as I mentioned earlier, our earliest ancestors who came to the West on ships desired to go home, and that has never stopped being a desire of them and their children from that time until this time. So we would like to really, begin with some information regarding the earliest, say, publicly known cries for repatriation, and also the earliest movements of Black people to Africa, because Rastafari is not the first people to say repatriation. Maybe that word we might have coined more than anybody else, but just wanting to go back to Africa as repatriation, same way still. So, you know, who were the earliest ones to individually seek to repatriate, and who were the earliest ones to organize around repatriation, and coming right down into the UNIA in the early days of the Rastafari movement, and bringing it forward to, you know, the formation of the Congress and the movements of King Emmanuel, and, you know, and even beyond, after King Emmanuel transitioned from his flesh, you know, where do we stand as an association when it comes to repatriation? Of course, it's still our number one slogan, you know, freedom, redemption, repatriation. But as far as our works and our efforts, where are we? Yeah, so at this time, I'll open up the floor. Anyone is free to begin the reasoning. But, you know, the starting place, I would say, should be, you know, the earliest calls and the earliest movements or earliest organizing for around the idea of Africans returning to Africa. Yes, my Lord and Empress. No one else, you know, has anything right now.
Quick input then. I'll just put a quick input. It started, even predate our landing, it started from those revolts on the slave ship when slaves tried to, you know, what they call, have a mutiny to overthrow the captain and his team to head forward home. So it started from the onset, you know, not to talk about the fight to get us to the coast. It started from that very moment, but on the journey itself, on that transatlantic journey, which we are really focusing on, that transatlantic slave trade. You know, it began with Amistad and Massavana, you know, those first revolts. Amistad was a name of a ship that was taken over by a set of Africans in their, you know, revolt trying to get back home. Same thing, Massavana was one of the first slaves to overthrow a captain and sail back to shore. See?
Okay, so that's where the screen name come from. I always wonder what Rasavana means, so give thanks for that clearance. I never heard that. I don't know if you have more information about Masavana, but
yeah, he's a soldier, one of our ancestors, you know. But coming on right through, then, you know, you come right down now from those levels of resistance to now when the end part of slavery, when you had people like, you know, Paul Kofi, you know, Chief Sam. Kofi was born in the West, but Chief Sam was born on the continent. He was a ship owner who sailed from the continent, and his thing was coming to the West, engaging and dealing with the either the freed or the ones that were running for freedom, you know, load up him ship and sail back, you know, setting them free on the continent and making several journeys. So it started from those various levels of yearning to be free, you know, right down to the average command who jump overboard because him rather to, you know, have a watery grave than to end up a slave. Yeah, I'll leave it there so for now.
Give thanks, my Lord. Yes, so you mentioned Amistad, which, I mean, most of us are probably familiar with the movie Amistad, but it's based on a real moment in history, African history, you know, in our interaction with the European, you know. As he said, from the time they captured us, you know, before they even got us to the coast, you know, they had a team they would hire, you know, African people. From what I understand, they would hire some African people who were opportunists, you know, and have them go and catch their people from other tribes, maybe their rival tribes, or, you know, and go help the European to capture them, tie them up and bring them to the shore where they would be, you know, treated like cattle, you know, put their brand on them and get them ready for the ship. So from that time, you know, to when they're chasing them down, to when they catch them, to when they bring them to the coast, I mean, there's the fight begins, and the fight never ended all the way across. I'm sure our ancestors, anytime they had a window of opportunity, they would try to seize it, you know, to try and free themselves from the hands of their captors, you know, and turn the ship around and go home. But, you know, like he said, some people would rather jump into the ocean than to be brought to what they didn't know. I mean, can you really imagine being thrown into the bottom of a ship where it's dark and stinky, you know, tied up against your people from other tribes you don't know, everybody's shackled, tied down and stuff, and brought in a boat for weeks and weeks, you know, across the ocean? You would probably be very terrified, but also, you know, the slightest opportunity to what might look like you might be able to get your freedom, I'm sure you would be inclined to try, you know. And once they got us here, you know, for years, they were still bringing more and more people there. Eventually that stopped. And, you know, from what I know, the earliest I've heard of it, as far as this concept of Ethiopianism, where, you know, Black people here in the West had organized, you know, a church around this idea that Ethiopia being, you know, the continent, not necessarily what we know today as Ethiopia, which, you know, used to be called Abyssinia. But then when you look at the old maps, you see the whole continent was called Ethiopia. And so these Africans had rallied around this concept that Ethiopia is our, you know, our heaven on earth, really. And, you know, that Ethiopianism brought forth, you know, books like not the Holy, is it the Holy Pibby? One of the Promise Key, maybe one of those books I know was written by an Ethiopianist, Athley Rogers, I think is how you say the name.
Yeah, the Holy Pibby.
Okay, the Holy Pibby. Yes, he came from the Ethiopianist tradition, you know. Some of the members of the UNIA movement were also, you know, Ethiopianists, and right down to, you know, Marcus Garvey. They say when we studied Marcus Garvey, the prophet, we learned that he never really coined the term back to Africa. Like, he never set the UNIA as a back to Africa movement. You know, he did want Africa to be our foundation, our powerhouse, wherever we are in the world, but he didn't say, and I mean, we do know that he did say he didn't want to bring every Black person back to Africa, because some are no good here, you know, so they wouldn't be any good in Africa as well. But, you know, Reverend Morris Webb had the, you know, look into the East for a Black king, for the crowning of a Black king, which, you know, the UNIA, you know, championed that call. But it wasn't really a back to Africa movement like that, you know, like how we are brought to understand. We think Marcus Garvey was all about bringing everybody from the West to the East, and that's not exactly true. The Black Star Line ship company was for trade, you know, for Black people to be able to trade with themselves without having a European middleman, you know, from in between America, the Americas, the Caribbean, and the continent of Africa, to have our own method of trading goods and things like that. Yeah, the Back to Africa movement now, when His Majesty needed help, you know, with the Italians, with the Italo-Ethiopian War, there was Black people, you know, from the West who went to his to help him and to help Ethiopia defend her sovereignty. And he offered, you know, certain amount of land, hectares of land, for them to become repatriates to Ethiopia. And, it's a gesture which I think is kind of misinterpreted by us. A lot of times we take that to mean that he wanted all Black people to move to Ethiopia or something like that. That's not really the case, but the gesture itself shows us that he did have the connection, as he said in Jamaica, that we are blood brothers and sisters. So, His Majesty supported the idea of repatriation same way, but in a different way. The Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress, as I said, stands to land every man and woman under their own vine and fig tree. So our take on repatriation is a little bit different than than the UNIA and that of His Imperial Majesty, but they're all, each of our Godhead figures, all, understood that Africa is our home and that we have the right to return to our home. So I'll leave it there for a moment. Ja Winston, you had your hand up, my lord. You can unmute yourself and you can speak.
Holy Manuel, yeah. All right. And I give thanks again for the man of praise, and I give thanks to the giving of thanks, And I give thanks to Holy Manuel, Selassie, Rastafari, the Almighty name, Yes, repatriation is a must, yeah. And when we say repatriation now, they say bigger than, and I same way. Repatriation is the fulfillment of the word. Is the word we come, see with Israel. And yes, every man can go home in Africa, and we can take the whole nation and carry them home right now. But when they reach home, there is still a different home, And that home live within yourself, which is Bobo Shanti, spirituality, powers, fulfillment of prophecy and history. Psalms 14 say how the salvation of Israel can come out of Zion. He say when the captivized people return, Jacob will rejoice. Brother. So I here on a mission, not even looking upon the slavery or the boat I bring in the West, but really past that, because we here on a mission, and we come out in the West because of Jehovah's disobedience still from in the time of Moses, So we scattered. We never reached to the promised land, Now we're supposed to reach to the promised land. That's why King Emmanuel come as the anointed one, to clean us up spirituality, to carry us forward now, so that we go be called God and Goddess of the earth, So it even, yes, we come in both, but it even gone way farther than that, because it's a powers, and it's a powers not even Babylon can stop it. All Black sons and daughters have to return. Jehovah's don't care what Babylon try to do it. Even the man in the garbage pan, he have to return same, because Africa him come from, Jehovah's, they could never give we a small island, Jehovah's, and make we sell out Africa for a small island, We have to return. So the salvation, King Emmanuel say, Jamaica can't even hold him. For a period of time, yeah, Jamaica could hold him. But Africa, yes, because Jah is looking up, Jah is looking up, because Jah don't know say Africa is a must. He must reach Africa. It ain't seems to the other people like he reach Africa, but it's there right now, And you can look into the powers and see the powers of Rastafari, Bobo Shanti way, It's because see when Bobo Shanti leave out, it's going to be Repatriation same way, because Bobo Shanti have to leave out first before the multitude leave, You see, because we are the anointed, we are the chosen, So this order here we set in a repatriation is it even more than that, because we have to go confront Elizabeth about the words which she write, because Psalms 14, she write it, them write translate over the Bible, and they may want to give us repatriation. Emmanuel said the same book, we slavers say the same book we will come first in this time here, So we have to go home. They say bigger than Babylon, bigger than anything you could think of. Jehovah, this is black man glory, black woman glory. So we must return. So we give thanks to Bobo Shanti, because Bobo Shanti clear the way. The priest and them clear the way because so the priest and them come now and set the other life now. We get to see the clearance of repatriation. So when we say repatriation in a man, well, it's something, it is beyond this Rasta. Jehovah's. It's beyond this. Even Marcus show you that. Jehovah's. Even Marcus show you shall come again, you know, to carry on forward all them Ethiopian, them careless Ethiopian. Jehovah's, you see it will go down in Babylon. So we must have to return to the spirituality powers because I see enough people running to Africa right now. And they may really know what they're going home for doing. Them just going home, you know. Yes, it's them right. I not stop them from that. But what they going home go do? What they doing in the motherland today? Show me something. What they doing for we to go home? They may making preparation for us to come home. They may doing these things. They may have home set up. They may have place set up. Now so that we can come home. We're struggling to go home. Rasta Jehovah's, we're struggling to go home. And we're looking upon it as a money thing to go home. But we have to confront Elizabeth. All small light and all country must come together. Jehovah's as Bobo must come together, Bobo Shanti. I ain't looking for another one. I ain't looking for no thundering banner. I ain't looking for them. I ain't looking for no tribe. Because Haile Selassie Judah, we all are Judah. I ain't looking for that. Bobo Shanti must start to come together for Judge Elizabeth. We have to Judge Elizabeth to go home.
My Lord.
Bobo.
My Lord. We, you know, let's try to keep it. All right. So as I introduced the program, right, I said that we wanted to start back, you know, before Bobo Shanti. We're not there yet. We're trying to bring it in procession up to the present. I mean, so let's just stick on where the topic is right now, which is bringing it up to date, not jumping from the beginning all the way to the end and present.
My Lord, it always going to be from the beginning. It can't be from the end. It will be from the beginning. And if you don't look upon it as a spirituality powers, then we can't go now, my Lord, because you live within the all of I and I same way. Jehovah's, because let me show you something. If it ain't manifest in spirituality, then it will come manifest physically. There's a balance. So it has to be spirituality. We have to see it in that way that we know exactly what we're going home to do. You know, Kai did before and I repatriation long before and I. Jehovah's, we come out of Africa long time. Ancients of days with the out there. So, you know, even before the boat bring us here in the small island, we didn't see the promised land yet, my Lord. We've been still the skylarking before we even acknowledge the power of Ethiopia. So, and I still fight within the spirituality and within the physical to enlighten the people them, so the people them can come together so that we can live out, my Lord. It ain't gonna just be teaching them about just the boat chat. Because Rastafari was in the pit of the boat long time, even when we coming from Africa. Rastafari was just right in the pit of the boat. That's why King Emmanuel could have come and rise Bobo Shanti in the West. You know, so repatriation, my Lord, it's gone way past that because look at Ghana today and look at the duty we're supposed to repatriate and do in Ghana, my Lord. Jehovah's, you know, it's physical and it's spiritual. Right now, it is more spiritual than physical because we're moving. We're just the one place. We're fighting to go home, you know, in one accord. You know, we only fight, some only fighting so, and some only fighting. So we have to come together. We have to organize and centralize and come together and we'll get repatriation, my Lord. Give thanks to the Lord and the present again, my Lord.
Natural, my Lord. Give thanks, my Lord, for your contribution. Same way still.
Give thanks, my Lord.
Thanks,
I want to
Mama.
say something, your words.
Yeah, for the sake of, you know, those watching, we try to keep it we're reasoning, you know, we're not just coming to say something, but we're actually listening to each other and keeping it on a certain, you know, vibration so that we're all on the same point and in the same time. And we eventually will get to the what can we do part, but we just want to, you know, be in together, you know, in one accord.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just one quick sound, you know, what Jadaniel is saying and, has been attempting to say is is a study group and we are coming through this event, starting from the beginning, we're chronicling it. When you're chronicling something, you're taking it through the different timelines. We just went through the how it began. How did we get here? We were kidnapped, put in a boat belly, and driven here, sailed here. So we got past that part. We got past now. After we land, when did that rebellious spirit rising I and I? When did our yearning to return start? We established that it began from the beginning, from wherever. So all those timelines we went through, we are at the timeline now where, okay, these brethren started it come down to Garvey. What Jadaniel spoke of Garvey's philosophy and opinion, and how Garvey looked at the whole concept. That is where we are now. I'd like to hear the brethren them opinion and understanding of where Garvey was within this whole context of repatriation. Do they eye them see it as how Jadaniel stated, or how they eye them see it? I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. I want to hear from the eye them, the eye them understanding, the eye them internal God. How the eye them see Garvey holding on this. What was Garvey's position to the eye them? Because remember now, Dada, King Emmanuel always said that he came to finish the work that Marcus Garvey started. If you listen to the interview clearly, he came to finish the work that Marcus Garvey started. So we need to understand what was the work that Garvey started. What was really Garvey about? Was it a Back to Africa movement? What was it? I want to hear some more context to that from the item. Give thanks.
Well, I give thanks again. Well, it always be Marcus Garvey prophecy, It always, from in the beginning, is Marcus Garvey prophecy. Physically, is Marcus Garvey prophecy. Because remember, King Emmanuel come and take Marcus Garvey word and turn it into salvation, fulfilling Jehovah's the book of John, King Emmanuel is the man who come and raise Garvey and show the world that Garvey is John the Baptist, the man who crucified Christ 2,000 years ago. But the child with Garvey come for sure, we know the reality in it is that the togetherness away. Because, with Israel, and once we were ruling, and we have to come rule again, So it's a physical chat, same with Garvey. We love Garvey as much as we love ourselves, because we see him as the power of the Trinity. But remember, King Emmanuel is the only man who ever come and say, Jeremiah is a prophet, Marcus Garvey is his name, So the salvation of Israel, King Emmanuel never leave it. The man never leave the salvation. So Marcus Garvey word, he turned it into salvation, fulfilling the child of Marcus Garvey, showing we know we have ordained and love and respect Marcus Garvey, to the slavery. When Garvey say he ain't trying to carry forward every black man to Africa, is the reality, because it's enough ones ain't go and go home. Come and build up a big house and a big car and all them things. He don't want left the safe for go Africa. This a poor and have not child. You could talk till the week, he still ain't going to go home. Because Garvey show you that. You could go up on the pulpit, you will talk to the black man, you will go up on the platform, you will talk to the black man, and he will never hear you still. So Garvey showing them now he ain't come for upset no one's mind, but we come showing now if you're looking for Christ 2,000 years ago, you go find Marcus Garvey. So I give thanks again for the reason again, my Lord.
Yes, Majesty. We have a next hand raised. Prophet, I know, Jah. My Lord, you can unmute and speak. Unmute, my Lord.
My Lord.
Majesty.
Yes, give thanks, my Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess. Give thanks for the morning uprising. What a wonderful thing to be free from sin and have joy within. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. give thanks for such mighty, topic, and I could see, upon the point where Marcus Garvey was inspired by a book, Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington, right? So just my humble, point or humble, sharing is that you could see Marcus Garvey on a mission to get the condition that Black people were in to rise out of that. You see, because if we look at Marcus Garvey, he went to certain colleges and school, but he had a bigger purpose than just being educated. His mission more were like to see the people them advance, I don't want to jump the timeline, but there's a very well-known document in, I think, 1961, the Back to Africa mission. You see it? Where all type of leaders, this from Jamaica now, where all kind of leaders and, organizations, went to Ethiopia. They went to actually the EWF headquarters in New York, and then, a couple of places in Africa. I think everyone familiar with that. I want to get into that. That was 1961. You see? So just my little humble spectacle view is we coming from a condition where, all of us, Marcus himself, every one of us, within being captured, brought here, and then our mental now. You see, our mental, some people adapt and be like, well, this is just the way of life. No, and some people like, no. Some people had a heart of resistance that this ain't the way of life, and we need to find back where we really come from, our own vine and fig tree. You see? So when it comes to Marcus' stand upon going home, he ain't just a attacker. You see? He make sure he, organize. And I just came across a word. They have organization and mobilization. The difference between them two things is when you mobilize, you could gather a lot of people, right? And he was drawing a point of two people. He was saying Martin Luther King was a good mobilizer, but not a good organizer. And he was saying Malcolm X was a good mobilizer and a good organization. Why? Because Malcolm X, when he go places, he leave mass, right? So he leave the, revolution reel spinning. Martin Luther King would more like, just take the note of what injustice is being done in the land, and then that's it for that day. So once we organize, we could do many things, and that's what Marcus Garvey will bring into us. We organize to have our own things so that we could actually reach to the point of repatriation, So in those few words, Marcus Garvey, kind of shine up your mighty race. You can accomplish what you will, you see. But in the reality where we live in today, and if you study the history that has been laid down upon the record of what been happening, if you join a certain organization in that time, they would like bar you from work and bar you from this and bar you from that. You see, you wouldn't really get to organize properly because they don't know that the more we are together, the stronger and happier we shall be, same way, So I would let the reason more go through. I just bring in that point there because I have many more deeper points within this topic, because freedom first, redemption, then repatriation,
Yes,
international repatriation. So I would just let the reason go through and then come in again. My Lord.
Thanks, Majesty.
My Lord, love.
And before we go a little too far, I just wanted to bring this point as well. In the history of repatriation, there was a man named Paul Coffey, a Black man who, that word Coffey, comes from Kofi, which in Ghana tree language, somebody named Kofi, a man named Kofi is someone who was born on Friday, so Paul Coffey is someone who, he didn't come, I think his father was brought here, but his father's name was Kofi. And that's where he gets that name, Coffey. But anyway, Paul Coffey was the first person spearheading back to Africa. And he actually was able to leave America and go to Africa. But there was also like over 1,000 people who have been sent to Sierra Leone as well. You know, this is in the 18th and 19th centuries, which means the 1700s and 1800s, that Black people was being sent, you know, from America to Africa. Paul Cuffey was in Massachusetts. I'm not sure about the 1,000 plus, but I know they went to Sierra Leone. So, you know, it's like we just are continuing a tradition, you know. We didn't originate the idea of repatriation. We just didn't give it up, you know, whereas other groups have kind of more so said, we'll just assimilate into America, we'll assimilate into the Caribbean. We don't want to go to Africa. Africa is backwards. Africa has hunger and poverty and all of this. So they just want to stay here. My ancestors worked to build this country, so I want to stay here. But Rastafari never gave up the concept of wanting to leave and go home, you know? And people have done it successfully, you know? People are still doing it successfully, but, you know, just, you know, dealing with the history of the idea of repatriation, there have been people who have, you know, gotten governments to send people home, you know? Successfully. Yeah, so just wanted to, you know, add that as we go through the history of repatriation still. Marcus Garvey, when it comes to repatriation, Marcus Garvey was not religious about it in any way, shape, or form. You know, every man to his own vine and fig tree. Yes, he did say that, but when Marcus Garvey approached things, he didn't approach it from like a spiritual kind of point of view. He dealt with things practically. You know, he was a statesman, you know, a government type of man, not really a church man, even though we know he did read his Bible and he did understand Christ and, you know, certain prophecy and stuff. He didn't speak to the people out of a place of, you know, trying to rouse in them their, you know, spirituality or religion, so to speak. You know, he more so just dealt with things like business, you know? Yeah.
When Marcus Garvey gets shot, remember what Marcus Garvey said? He's invincible. You know, that is why he take his spiritual power to, you know. He showed the world he's invincible, he can't die. You know? All when Marcus Garvey tried, he showed the world he can't die. He just
what does that have to do with repatriation, my lord?
Well, that is repatriation. Is showing the world now that the same man who organizing everything for us to go home, then we're trying to put him down. So he's showing the world now, because of he fighting for a right for us, that caused him to live, that caused him to, you know, to be there at his presence still to fight for that cause. Because you see, when Marcus Garvey tried what happened, no one really take up the repatriation from such time unto this time. Is only King Emmanuel come and start to fight now for repatriation for I and I, you know, but no one ever really take up all of Marcus Garvey business, everything that we Marcus Garvey own. Wait this today. We cannot rest we hand on it. We don't know what they, we can't go and claim none of the stores on them in America where Bobo Shanti can go and say this is Marcus Garvey own and we could have it. We don't have them rights there. We don't have them rights. Everything taken away from Garvey. Everything. My lord. That's a love, my lord.
We give thanks, my lord. We had a hand raised, Honorable Prophet Jasik, my lord. You can unmute yourself.
Bless the love, my Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess. Give thanks.
My lord.
Give thanks for Black Christ in flesh. Our worthy founder, leader, president, God and King. Yeah, man. Repatriation, you know? Well, the community Marcus Garvey now, as the Honorable Priest Doggy reason, the 1914 started the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, to improve Black man living conditions and these things, you know. Because anybody perfect go, you see Black man living under terrible conditions, you know. In 1921, when the Prophet come out from the Back to Africa campaign, 1921, you know, the African Community League, you know, them organization, you know, was seeking to unite Black man into one solid body. 400 million Negroes in them time there. In America, in the West Indies, South and Central America, you know, Garvey come and bring the unity amongst Blacks in them time there, concerning the Back to Africa movement. for we to really set up a empire and destiny, because all nations have destiny and we have our own destiny too. As the prophet come and teach you, and give you the vision then. You come behind them here, am I right?
Yes, I.
Yes, man.
Yeah,
True.
man. So, so
Yeah, man.
and we come and see Black Christ build upon that same way too, So we give thanks for the foreigner Christ. Because before Christ come, the prophet has come. And now the man was clear the way. He prepared the way for the man, Marcus even say, we leader shall be 10 miles out of the bloody city of Kingston. We come and see the Black Christ reside 10 miles out of the bloody city of Kingston. We leader to continue the works, the repatriation works, And as the prophet say, repatriation is a must, my Lord. It's a must. But that will the rest, So I give thanks to still reason them few words for now, still, my Lord. Heart of love.
Give thanks, my Lord. And Empress Cindy, you have your hand up. You can unmute yourself, Honorable, and speak.
Yes, Honorable, blessed love, my Lord and Empress.
Blessed love, Empress.
I trust all ones and ones here are doing well. I just wanted to add, in addition to what you stated about ones and ones going to Sierra Leone, I wanted to also add that there were also in the early 1800s, there was also a small group of American Blacks who emigrated back to Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so that's all I want to add. Give thanks, my Lord.
Give thanks, Empress, for that
Yeah, through the
fullness.
chair. Through the
Mhm.
chair.
No, my Lord, go ahead.
Just wanted to, before we get too far away from it, as you there touch on the Nova Scotia group. Ones need to do a little research more time. You see, when you hear about a situation like that, that is something that ones need to look into and see how that group get to end up in Nova Scotia and how they got that right to be returned home. Because in those days, that wasn't a simple move. And when you check it out, the reason they ended up in Nova Scotia, there were a set of ones, coming from a certain set of African tribes or a specific African tribe that had a certain nature. They had what they call an unbreakable spirit. That set of ones were directly shipped out of the colonies. Directly, like when they took the Ark of the Covenant and thought that they could usurp it, and eventually they brought it back and begged the Israelites to take it back because it caused so much disaster and havoc. Well, it was the same thing with the ones that ended up in Nova Scotia. They were so rebellious, they kept on inciting other slaves to rebel. So they were a set of ones that they had to get rid of them. And they ended up earning that right. It wasn't something that was given to them. Earning the right to end up in Nova Scotia, earning the right to be taken from Nova Scotia and returned forward to Africa as the first set of repatriates to be returned home. Yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks, my Lord. Any other hands? Anyone else? Yeah, we're just, one's mentioned, Marcus Garvey as the prophet, and I would just like to say, as long as we can view prophecy in a realistic sense, and we don't make it too out of ourselves, then these things are serving us. But once it gets to be like a Christian understanding of, like how, for instance, they believe, Christ was born through an immaculate conception, which makes Christ different than everybody else. And that doesn't really serve us, So as long as we view these things in a way that it still serves us and it empowers us as humans, then it's good, it's real. But once it gets to be like a fantasy where we're waiting on some God in the sky, to come pick us up and drop us off in Africa, then it becomes, detrimental to the way we view ourselves and to the way we view repatriation, you know. It always has to remain human and very real. Otherwise, it becomes like a fantasy that will never really happen, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, give thanks to that song, that real song. Because when you look at Garvey, you look at Garvey's prophecies as a student of Garvey, Garvey's prophecies were realistic. They were not Nostradamus and those type of ones that we come here so much about and see them create movies about, the Da Vinci Code and all these, you know, create these mysticism around these white people. See, Garvey's prophecies were pragmatic. He looked at circumstance, he looked at history, he looked at present condition and could address and look into the future and say, well, if this continue down this pathway, this is the natural result. So his predictions of Africa becoming free, you know, of a king crowning in Africa, because at that time we have to remember that a kingship was still the highest order of humans' leadership. So at that time, it was still relevant, you know, for a king to be crowned. And for a king to be crowned, a king becomes highly visible. So this is a person that is highly visible, that can be seen the globe over, because it's a king. You hear about the King James, the different kings. You don't hear about the priest Dougie or the little Jadaniel. See, everybody know about these kings. So the kingship at that time was relevant. So Garvey could look and say, well, you know, that is going to be a sign that black man earning him way out of this judgment. Yeah. Because when we are able to crown a king again, a king of some power and some dominance, then that means that black man freedom is here. And that is what he prophesied, that when we see a king crown in Africa, that said our moment of redemption is at hand. See, prophecies like that are realistic, and you can apply them in different ways. They are hopeful gestures to a people that are hopeless. One, you know, it's like Dada. Let's use King Emmanuel as the example. Trading with Dada, you know, Dada used to always say every year, we'll go home next year. We'll go home next year. And continuously told us that. And it's not like he was misleading us, because, you know, the normal historian here, these accounts now say that is deceptive. It had nothing to do with deception. He understood the kind of yoke that we were under. And there's a saying, an old adage in the African way, encouragement sweetens labor. So by constantly telling I and I that next year we're going home, you know, and those of I and I who have been with him for many, many decades, we understood it, because we are here from we meet him until, so we understood that he meant to just stay strong, wage the battle onward, because we don't know what hour the victory will come. Don't give up hope, because the moment you give up hope might be the moment of victory. That was what he said. He was saying to I and I in those gestures. See? So more time we have to, like the man say, you have to live life with an understanding or an overstanding, as the song goes. You know, you have to deal with things from a pragmatic, you know, realistic view. How does it apply to I as a human? Because if we continuously try to revere our leadership from just a deity standpoint, from just the divine aspect, if we're looking at Dada, King Emmanuel, from just the Black Christ aspect, we are going to miss a whole nother level of teaching, because he was a human. So he's both divine and human. And we have to view our deities from both, so we can totally comprehend their message and their methods. The two things that we need to understand about our leadership: the message they brought and the methods that they were using to achieve their goals. Yeah, give thanks.
Yes, my Lord. All right, Honorable Prophet Winston, my Lord, you can speak.
Give thanks again, Honorable Priest, for the word, my Lord. Give thanks again. Bobo, yes, but the spirituality powers is a balance. Because Selassie I developed Ethiopia, you know, we see Selassie, the city he come from, and we see how we go on from such time before he sit on the throne of David. Everything that we're doing and talking, it have to be physical before it be spiritual. So we never left Marcus Garvey Jehovah's spirituality, neither physical works, you know, because and that's why we have business, you know, in every way, you know, as a black man, Jehovah's that why King Emmanuel come and set the broom field, Jehovah's, you know, a free within every man, Jehovah's to be, you know, owning paper within him's right and to be a free man within himself, him work for himself, same way. So everything within the Congress, it's physically and it's spiritually. You know, because you could joke home all the people them physically too. And when I reach home in Africa, then it's still them have to climb at different heights within the mind now, because it's not just reaching Africa just so, you know. So it's a balance. So we give thanks to even Marcus Garvey in this time where we come show we repatriation, you know, upright within man, liberty must be upright, man ways must be good, man must be, you know, right within him doing and saying same. King Emmanuel come and show with the same thing too. You know, Selassie I come and show with the same thing too. Remember the cheer them never disagree now. Cheer them say Africa, cheer them say Ethiopia, cheer them say repatriation, you know. So we know them as the power of the Trinity. So everything that we Marcus Garvey fight for physically, like building the canal and all them things, we upon them same chat they too. We have to get ships and we have to have our own, you know, be mighty upon the water, he say. He say be mighty upon the water, which means we have to have big ship on the water too. And rule the sea same way, like how them rule the sea same way. So everything is physically, spiritually. But I go say again, the salvation is the only thing we're going to be standing this time here, you know. So he say anyone who come out of America and them place will come pilgrim of an everlasting city. So he did with still blending it with the physical and the spirituality as Marcus Garvey. We love Marcus Garvey and we take some stand upon Marcus Garvey. Study Marcus Garvey a lot too, you know, all in school. Marcus Garvey, they know when I put as an education, you know. So we study Garvey, but it's things that we see with Garvey what we don't like, you know. And it caused the movement, I pretty like it caused the movement for Marcus Garvey to be away like stoning Garvey, you know, and all them things. And, you know, certain things with black people have to still get punished for, you know. You know, my man can't run from it, same still, you know. So Marcus Garvey live, man. We love Garvey, enough love and strength, same in my life.
Yes, my Lord. So as you can see on the screen there, Africa, this is from the Negro World, the newspaper of the UNIA. You know, Africa, the land of hope and promise for Negroes, Negro people of the world. Will Negroes allow the whites to take Africa? You know, that there doesn't necessarily mean that Marcus Garvey wanted all black people to come to Africa. Still, it just means that's our homeland. That's our, you know, that's our foundation. No matter where we are on the earth, you know, we can't change our skin, just like the leopard can't change his spots. So, you know, we have to defend it, even if we don't intend on living there. You know, we should be Afrocentric. We should be, you know, our 401k should have Africa in it. You know, it shouldn't just be rebuilding and we leave out Africa, you know? Yeah. Honorable Priest Jermaine have his hand up. My Lord, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress, give thanks for yet another beautiful, bright day. Give thanks even for the reason men going to the earth at this hour. Give thanks for all ones. You know, pray that this Sabbath they go through and meet all ones with all health, strength, and wellness, you know. Yes, my Lord and Majesty, just want to add, pardon. Just, you hearing me?
Yes, I.
Just want to add to the reasonment in terms of the Marcus Garvey you know, what we're talking about with Marcus Garvey. You know, Marcus Garvey, Tony Martin had put out a book called Message to the People, you know, and in that book, you know, if you read it, you know, it's showing you how to conduct yourself as an individual, you know what I mean? To, like you say, put back the backbone in the black man and woman again, you know what I mean? And bring them forward as a remembrance of themselves. Because you gotta remember in that time, you know what I mean, people was just black people, was fresh out of slavery, you know, 1834 here in the Caribbean, 1865 in America, and 1888 in Brazil. You know, so the slavery was just ending per se, you know what I mean?
You muted yourself, my lord.
Good
Mr.
song.
Man.
Set out now to make, you know, that nation of intellects and, you know what I mean, our own nation, our own, you know what I mean, surroundings, our own upbringings, everything our own, you know. So the man was on a mission to do just that, you know what I mean. And like I said earlier, my lord, you know, Marcus Garvey wasn't such of a more spiritual man, you know. He was more leading you towards yourself, you know what I mean. Hence now when he came with the other book there, Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, which his wife did write, you know what I mean, that more showing you how to be statical, how to govern yourself, how to run an organization and all of these things there, you know. So Marcus was just building black people to that awareness that, yeah, you're African and, you know what I mean, you're not American, you're not Jamaican, and you were just building you to that awareness of a land and a nation and a people, you know what I mean? So kick it forward to now Emmanuel, you know, when he came forward now to continue that work, you know, he put it more, he embraced it with spirituality, you know, showing us now of the God aspect of everything, and even champion the cause for repatriation same time, you know what I mean? And Emmanuel did say, you know what I mean, that, yeah, he ain't going home and no migration scheme is repatriation, you know? But as you could see later on in the Back to Africa mission, when he sent off ones to Africa on a fact-finding mission and these things, you know, it was to gather, you know, that information, that vital information about government to government. Hence, when we talk about Marcus again, Marcus rose that government aspect in I&I. So he was just building I&I, you know, towards that African movement, that African mission. You know what I mean? And in this time here now, the works, you know, shouldn't be ceased. It should be continued. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that, you know, so that I could have that in the back of our minds, that we are the ones now that taking up that mantle, you know what I mean, to forward the people, forward the masses to Africa and build that awareness and even help those in Africa recognize I out here. You know what I mean? Because as you know, Africa itself in apply. You check? So yeah, we give thanks that, you know, that this reasonment about repatriation, you know, come forward this day, because it's something that is very needed and it is vital to I being, you know, as African people. Yes, my Lord and Empress, give thanks for those few words. You know?
Give thanks, Jakasha, my lord. Honorable Prophet Jasik, my lord, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Bless the love, Honorable. Bless the love.
My lord.
Yeah, my Lord. I'm saying what the Honorable priest reason they preach, you know? Yeah, my Lord. Because, you know, from 1834, we come on there, you know, freedom, as they say, Emancipation Day, 1st August, 1834. The Black Christ come and teach you now that we true Independence Day. Come and say after slavery day, the Queen of England, Victoria, after slavery, she left on 20 million sterling pounds sterling as compensation for every slave to get 500 pounds in the hand to return home. After a period of 5 years, there's a cinema portion. These things now never take place, my Lord and Empress. These things never take place. The slave masters and them end up with that money, my Lord, because they still invest in the slaves, and if the slaves free, they will lose their business and these things. So they keep the money, my Lord. They say they will create jobs for we for 100 years. They never give it no freedom, my Lord, no redemption, no repatriation. The holy tree came on the land, my Lord. The prophet, the king, and the priest come. They start and declare Africa for the Africans to fight for black man redemption, repatriation, all these things. No migration scheme, because this thing is every black man who was scattered 4 winds of earth. So it's an international thing, you know. Heads of governments now, the Queen, all heads of governments who benefit from slavery, the black rights writer, all in these people them, pleading for ships and compensation to return us home to our own vine and fig tree. These people never giving nothing, my Lord. They hard in their heart, my Lord. We know, and I know what Bobo Shanti, you know, we still and them now, my Lord, the heads of government and the people and them United Nations. Even the OAU right now, we're writing sabotage, my Lord. Pharaoh don't want to free, my Lord. He had hard, Pharaoh. So, you know, but as the prophecy go, repatriation is a must, freedom is a must. It's by earthquake, lightning, thunder, even by man hand. So we probably trust in the Lord, my Lord. We keep the faith and we keep the courage. Blessed my Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess.
My Lord.
Blessed love.
Yes, as long as our faith in the Lord is in our faith, it is really in ourselves and in each other, then it's good faith, you know. But if our faith is in something outside of ourselves, it's like, you know, in my opinion still, it's just like, yeah, when we say things like we keep our faith in the Lord, we have to be mindful that the Lord lives in us. Yeah, and he moves and operates through us, you know. Yes, and through nature, same way. And we have the connection to him. We have the connection to nature, and we have the power. Once we set our minds and hearts towards a goal through prayer, fasting, works, you know, especially the works. If we pray and fast, but we don't do the works, the praying and fasting would be in vain, you know. And if we do the works, but we don't have the faith same way, it's not right, you know, it's not balanced. So yes, the spiritual aspect is real and ever present, but not even but. For me, it's just the understanding of spirituality is not like a fantasy kind of thing. It's very real and practical, you know. Had a couple of hands raised, Job Winston and then Job Benton. Job Winston, you can unmute yourself, my Lord.
Give thanks, my Lord. Give thanks again for the reason. Yes, you know, repatriation. We not stop, we say repatriation. We not stop, say so physical and spiritual, because we defend Marcus, we defend Emmanuel. So we put both of them together, you know, cause not have ones and ones maybe eating out a garbage pan, where them don't even have a job or have anyone to how them going home. How these people going home. John never leave with them. John never leave. We John never catch no plane and a boat and nothing go nowhere and leave. We John always with we and you will always with we same way. And Haile Selassie, I say, never give up faith nor hope. So we as the Black nation and as Israel, we ain't going to give up that faith and hope. We're trying to organize ourselves 4 wings. Yes, it will take a little while as Bobo and as people, but we have to organize ourselves to go home. You know, the road is kind of rough. Right now, the road is kind of rough because of the way they look on Black people and the pandemic and a lot of things there before, you know, but that can't stop us. We have to return, you know. We must return. And we ain't returning just I man alone, I alone, but the multitude have to return. You know, so we just keeping the faith and trying to organize and centralize in good behavior, good principle, you know, try to hold ourselves in fasting and praying and stay we are, because just a ball and I go judge them out the road, you know. Enough man left the camp and go out the road and get judged out the road same way. Focus on Bobo Hill. you know, focus on Bobo Hill. We have to focus on Bobo Hill so we could get repatriation. Because the more we are together, the mighty will be, you know, man. You know,
Sure.
see, we have to put our difference aside, we have to stop. And we have to go in the place, man, woman, and children. We have to go in and start to organize Bobo Shant, you know. I will love to go Bobo Hill to set a workshop to start to sell furniture and then from the Congress to all over the world, you know. I working towards that, getting tools and machine and all them things. Because Bobo Hill is essential. If you didn't Bobo Hill, you don't sin. When you do out the road, all type of thing meet you, all type of people say all thing of you. You do out the road, them accuse you all how. When I didn't Bobo Hill, I don't have to worry. All I have to study for get up and go road car. Psalms reading and I good. I sit down, cock up my foot and study Selassie and eat and drink. It's Bobo Hill we have to go, my Lord and Empress. See you
Yes,
later.
my Lord. Give thanks, Honorable. Ja Benton, my Lord, yeah, I had your hand raised. You can unmute yourself, Ja Benton.
Bless the Lord, my Lord. Bless the Lord, family.
Blessed love,
You
majesty.
can hear him, my Lord.
Yes, King. Yes,
Yes,
King.
King.
My Lord. Give thanks for the moment, you know, give thanks for the study group and the effort, you know, towards coming together to get a greater understanding and educate ourselves upon pertinent topics. So we start with repatriation. Right now, a lot of time I see us as a people, we get caught up in this never-ending cycle of trying to just justify our reason for saying things and doing things. And in turn, end up looking out and not focusing on the things we justifying. You know? So when we look at it, we sit here, we talk repatriation this morning, and I understand, yeah, we're going through the history of it, but as we go through the history of it, I ain't seeing where one's grasping and bringing the context right now, what bring us to where we are. So when we look at repatriation, when we look at markers and repatriation, let's look at the context of the Black man situation. Let's look at the ideology that Marcus and our ancestors in that time view the construct of repatriation through. And we get to see the methodology that they use to achieve or try to achieve what they was doing. So same thing when we reflect within ourselves now on repatriation as Bobo, and we look at it, we also look at it's a matrix, it's a construct. How we view repatriation the way we view it is a reason why we view it that way. And when we see King Emmanuel come and bring us to repatriation, let's look at the ideology and the context of which he viewing repatriation through. And we will bring us to the answer how we agitate. Because the man come and show us spirituality and the repertory justice side of repatriation, where Marcus come and show we the do for self, the self-healing. So we have to be able to find a balance within the two. But to be able to do that, we got to be pragmatic and stop just getting caught up on the justifications for things. Because we just sit down and we just have all these talking shops and we just end up with no work at the end. No tangible outcome to all these years that saying we organize and all these years that saying we studying these same man. So we got to better utilize our time, because time ain't a renewable resource. We got to better utilize our time to focus in and building ourselves towards pragmatic solutions. viewing things in a pragmatic sense. Step away from the mysticism. Because life real, you know? And we have to deal with it in a real approach and a tangible approach. We can't deal with the intangible to deal with the tangible. So as we continue to go along with repatriation, I'd like us to really study the processes of repatriation. Repatriation is a process. The man lay out a 4-point plan for us, right? Let's look at the context at which that 4-point plan was laid out. Let's look at the methodologies we use to try to fulfill that plan. Let's look at the current context we in and see what we need to do now. Because the context has changed, time has changed. So when we could go from repatriation, in a sense, coming out of slavery with the European governments and the American government, even to a sense, dealing with this as a political issue. Okay, these people ain't enslaved no more, so it's a question of enfranchisement. So do we enfranchise them? And you see, they have to take judgment, million of dead to come to the question of the 13th and 14th Amendment in America. Question of citizenship or not. So political alternative was, which dealt with the some of the people moral sentiment as they saw it, allow them on them to go back home. But the politics and the economics didn't dictate that. So they gave you enfranchisement. So we move into now where man them are so-called enfranchisement into the time of Marcus. Let's look at the context of Jim Crow. Let's look at the political and socio-economic situation of black man and the world during World War I, during the height of when Marcus Summer. Let's look at what was going on. Let's look at Africa. Africa had Liberia, Ethiopia, and Morocco as sovereign nations. So if you was to repatriate and say you go into repatriate in essence, if you wanted to go in Ghana and you from Jamaica, Bahamas, the British so-called Commonwealth, you was moving from one domicile to the next and had to get permission to go. You wasn't going to nothing free. You was going from island plantation colonialism to continental colonialism. So when we look at Marcus, here you say where the black man army, his government, his navy, his man a big affair. The man say the answer to that question is creating our own. And the only way we can be able to create it our own in safety without molestation is in Africa. So therefore you get the work towards building the UNI as a government, towards establishing a state in Africa. Now when we come in to King Emmanuel and we look at the socio-economic situation of black man post-independence in the Caribbean and Africa. You could enter in now, you could call for, and within the advent after World War II, the concept enshrined in international law of reparatory justice. So when we say repatriation, we have to understand repatriation is a process in reparatory justice. So therefore, we could now start to agitate the former colonial heads, to their colonial puppets in the island states, towards facilitating such a reparatory justice of repatriation. That's why we say repatriation, reparation, and compensation. But we got to understand repatriation is a part of reparation and compensation. It's reparatory justice. Now, when we move into this current time we in, this new millennium.
My lord, hold on. Because we doing a kind of chronological. I want you to address everything, but just before we get that far, where we were was in the UNIA period. And the next thing after that is the Rastafari movement and how repatriation, became a part of the Rastafari ideology. What did the early Rastafari founders do towards repatriation? And, then we get into King Emmanuel and, eventually the EABIC, but just for the sake of the flow of the conversation, I want to have you pause right there with where you was going. If you know, not to be,
All right.
not to cut the eye off still, but you know, just for the sake of the conversation, we just hold it, put the brakes, and I'm, you know, asking everyone who's speaking to keep it in mind that there is a flow, you know, and we would love if ones and ones could stay where we are on the topic. And if, you know, if you have something to say about the future part, just hold it until we get there. So I'll call on the next hands, but just keep in mind what I just asked, please. Prophet, I know Jah, that I can speak, and then Brother Joseph, and then Jah Winston.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress.
Blessed love, Honorable.
Yes, give thanks. Through the topic, coming back to what I was saying, well, not really the word that I was saying about the organization and mobilization came from Kwame Ture, you know? So it's like this. We have mighty mobilization, right? You could see that in the Million Man March and all these things. Then you have organizers. These are the ones now who actually make an effect upon the cause, you know? So when it comes to, as many people covered the point already upon Marcus Stan, you know, as a statesman, and you see what he did. And right now, no one can even, if it was competition or whatever, they cannot outdo what he did by organizing so powerfully. That's why when he did that, you see that the world, which meaning the evil world, they counteract it, you see? So anytime we have organization, that's what we need to have, we're going to see the true intentions of the world that is restricting us from these causes like repatriation and freedom and all of these things. You know what I mean? So he did touch on a point that I try and really get across properly. He talked about Martin Luther King and he talked about Malcolm X. And we know they have many studies that one could show, but he kind of magnify the mobilization and the organization part of these ones. So from Marcus Garvey time, we could clearly see he is a mobilizer and an organizator, right? He kind of bring things where taking us from a state of mind, a condition, and elevating us to do for ourselves and get the works done. But we have this opposition here when we do that, which is the evil world. You see it? There are black lawyers, black pastors. The man show a song about the ones them who forward to Liberia. They used to have pastors, you know, ones who go into church, and so they used to actually have that intention towards mobilization and organization towards Africa. You see, that's how it used to be. Of course, ain't like that anymore. But right now, meaning in the sense of what Marcus did for us, we could clearly see that it had structure. It must have to have some kind of structure to get these effects done within the level of not just saying we have a lot of members and have them in numbers, but we have effectiveness within what we're doing all over the place, not just in America or the Caribbean, but all over the place. So that's another approach that we could look at to see the Marcus Garvey stance upon repatriation. He's a man that really make it happen, and he do it himself. And that's something we need to mention also, you know. And when it comes to the points that being made, the people are the multitude. So yes, we have spearheaders, but if it ain't for the people now, you see, the unconscious, if it ain't for them, because the Virgin did say a point like this too. The conscious, right? Meaning like people who study a lot or whatever, they might be very hesitant to do a thing because they know every move they make have to be in a precision. The unconscious now, they're willing to even lay down their life, you know, because they're just going with the flow. Now, how we would make them conscious, this the part that really very important. How we gonna make the unconscious conscious? Because a lot of people going on in the world today or the world back then, and it's the same method being used to keep us back, you see? So Marcus Garvey was man able to break that chain and kind of make the unconscious conscious and organize ones, give them a sense of hope, but not just in just for a time. He was all the way through the end of doing this thing here still. So when he had the Million Man March, right? Kwame to bring a point like this, say, okay, he was there, but he's saying, you know what? We should have more take it to approach of going to where it would hit hard or effective. Because we did gather, that's mobilization. A lot of people gathered, right? But when you look at the present of that, you know, he was talking about the after effect of that. You will have man saying, yeah, I've been there, I was there. And then he asks, okay, what are you doing now? What are you doing now that you have been to the Million Man March? So that's where the point he was making on the mobilization part.
Actionable. Yes, I.
You know?
Actionable mobilization. Yes, my Lord. Give thanks. As you can see on the screen here, it says the African Redemption Fund. You know, this is just one example of an action. You know, when Marcus Garvey got the people together, he got their attention. As he said, he raised their awareness of themselves and of Africa. Once he had them organized, once he had their attention, he had programs, you know, meaningful programs that would, you know, if it would be impactful, you know, not just like busy work, but these things were, you know, set up to where when the people, if you get the people and these people are willing to contribute to a movement and they have money, or if they have other resources, they have something they can do with it. It's not just saying a bunch of things and getting people's attention, but you don't have nothing really for them to do, you know? So, you know, this is just one example. I don't know if ones and ones have other examples, but, you know, let's move it from now, the Marcus Garvey, the UNIA, forward to the Rastafari, the early Rastafari people and their repatriation efforts, their knowledge of repatriation, how repatriation became, you know, a part of the ideology of Rastafari. And, you know, I heard someone mention the 1961 trip that was sponsored by the University of the West Indies, as well as the Jamaica government, which, you know, sent, you know, Rastafari delegation to, I think, 5 different countries, maybe I'm wrong on that number, for a fact-finding mission, you know, which, you know, ultimately didn't really result in much. But, you know, it was definitely a thing that was monumental in the Rastafari movement. So I'm just asking that we can kind of transition, you know, forward to that time period, you know, the 30s, 40s, 50s. But the next hand raised is Brother Joseph, Prophet Joseph, and then Prophet Winston, my Lord. So Prophet Joseph, you can unmute yourself and speak honorably.
Blessed Lord, my Lord and Empress.
My Lord.
Give thanks again, my Lord, for the reasoning going through, my Lord. Give thanks for, yes, my Lord, for our aim and objectives, freedom, redemption, and international repatriation.
My Lord.
My Lord, I give thanks, my Lord, for our prophet, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, for really, holding the fort in such time to bring the awareness of Black people coming from a continent, from Africa, because the struggle of Black people has been from the time they were carrying down here to the West to be considered equal and to be considered human, my Lord and Empress. But Marcus Mosiah Garvey saw that this struggle could not be one being considered because we would never be considered like members of a country that don't belong to us. So him show us the way we must work to redeem Africa. And this is very important, my lord, because the white man agenda was to have Black people control down here so they could take every resources from Africa. Right? So we had to be aware of where we come from and what Black man and woman had to come and reclaim within their birthright, right? Because Africa was run down by and still colonialism, imperialism. So the strength to really liberate the continent of Africa was in the West. Same way, all Black man and woman who were here in the West need to get involved with that struggle of the continent to run the white men out of Africa same way. And that is the way we could become a strong nation, by having a nation for ourselves that can defend us and that can, that we can become a part of, right? Because Black man and woman in the West are captive still, my lord. So if there is not a building of a nation, of a Black nation in the continent of Africa that can represent us in the race of nations, how we will be recognized, how will we have the same rights of other humans, my lord, of other races? So Marcus Garvey, I really see, was the forerunner of the building of this nation that came forward with our father, Emmanuel, with the building of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, in the terms that Marcus Mosiah Garvey said, and I will quote here, that he said that I foresee the building of a great state in Africa, which featuring the concert of the great nations will make the Negro race as respectable as others, and other Negroes will be favored by the building of this African state, because when this state exists, they will be considered and respected as descendants of this powerful country, which has enough strength to protect them. Marcos I.
Rastafari.
So when I see Rastafari, you see the coming forth, the crowning of the king really being fulfilled as a prophecy, where him say, Prince and princess shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall stretch for her hands unto God. So it is the building of this nation, my lord, Rastafari, the children of the Most High. You see, a nation of prophet, priest, empress, prince, and princess. And the building of this nation in Africa, my lord, is really the prophecy that we come to fulfill, that our father come to fulfill with the African mission and all the contributions he bring to the people, my lord. So we see that from the need of assisting the nation, well, a greater needs come, which is the need of a nation in Africa that can represent and that can contribute to the building of all the people that are members of this nation. So we come to organize ourselves as a nation within Rastafari, where we have our own government, our own parliament, our own state, which must be Africa, and we have our own church, and we have a nation that we are building up. And this is what I see, my lord, is the great mission that we have at hand, my lord, which is the mission our father left us. How this nation will be established in Africa, so that first we can redeem Africa, and then Africa can become a comfortable place to take all the sons and daughters that have been scattered, my Lord.
Give thanks, my Lord.
Thanks for the word, my Lord.
And as you can see on the screen, you know, it says, let's put it over. A home in Africa. Notice to members of the UNIA, all members of the UNIA who desire to go to Liberia, West Africa, to settle, to help in the industrial, commercial, and cultural development of the country, and who intend sailing, well, I can't tell if that's intend, but sailing September, October, December 1924, or January, February, March, April, or May 1925, and something to send in for application form to be filled out. And, you know, it's like a practical program, you know, it wasn't just a rhetoric, you know. Marcus Garvey had a real grip on how to make it a reality. You know, he didn't just give the people like hopes and dreams, but actually here's a program. If you're really serious and you want to move to Africa, we've been, you know, communicating with Liberia's government. We've set it up so, you know, you can apply, send in your application, and you can possibly move, you know, yourself and your family to Africa, you know. It's just real, you know, it wasn't like you don't have to wait for anything. It's just, you can do it if you want to do it.
My
So
Lord,
that's Marcus Garvey's approach. You know, Marcus Garvey was a practical man, you know. He set up programs and worked, you know, the people even dealing with, following Marcus Garvey were well-to-do people, intelligent people, you know, who had education, even though they're just out of slavery. You know, these people, back in the day, education was something sought after, you know. Once integration and all of that happened in America, education became something that people didn't really take so seriously, and has become something that we take for granted, you know. And even say within the Congress, it's kind of like you could be looked down upon for being too intelligent, you know, using words that people don't understand and stuff like that. Sometimes you're made to feel guilty for those type of behaviors still. But yeah, Marcus Garvey wasn't that type of person. Marcus Garvey was a realist. Yeah, and the Rastafari movement really continued the call of Marcus Garvey back to Africa for one, but also, you know, organizing around, you know, Black nationality, Afrocentrism, all of these things, you know. And I would ask at this time, maybe Honorable Priest Dougie, being that he's a great historian, will give us a word sound about how repatriation became, you know, how did it transfer from, say, like the UNIA movements to, you know, the early Rastafari gatherings and groundations and things like that?
Yes, my Lord, give thanks. I'm listening to the item, you know. Yeah, nice reasoning. I like the contribution of the brethren before. Yeah. Sometimes simplistic ways of putting things, you know, we need to just listen and get the message, you know. So give thanks for all said and done up to this point. Yeah, the transition of this concept from just being a universal meditation to a practical implementation is what we are about here. Garvey did that in his whole fullness, creating the businesses and, you know, the shipping line for business as well, but also constructing a plan that was constructed in phases on paper, not just a meditation, not just an idea, you know, but an idea that was conceptualized. That means that it was thought out in all its stages. See, now the ones that walked with Garvey, they got that concept, and they are the ones that transitioned from Garveyism and that whole Black Power concept into Rastafari. Those early leaders, you know, those street corner meetings, those gatherings, those groundation gatherings, those early groundation gatherings. That is what it was about: sharing information, the privileged ones that were able to travel and, learned certain things, got certain books and all of that. They came forward and shared their information. And so this whole concept now started to develop where, remember now, the first cry for repatriation came out of a brother named Alexander Bedward. And I consider him one of the earliest Rastafaris, not so much with the locks now, but with the concept. His whole concept was, it predate Pinnacle, it predate Bubble Hill. See, his whole concept was about independence that Garvey had learned. Independence wherein he built a camp called the Union Camp. The people that lived there, them never work in a Babylon, them work for themselves. They were artisans, they were some of the most crafty ones of that period. His members built a church out of what they call rocks, like what they used to break in slavery days, those rock buildings. They built a church out of it that was hailed as one of the most magnificent monument of its time. Now, saying all that to say that this man taught a whole concept, not just a preaching from an altar about God and salvation. He, like Marcus Garvey, like Dada, like Howell, had the same intent, creating a village, a society, a nation of people that was independent, that knew how to maintain their independence through self-sufficiency. See, so he was one of the first, and he also coined the whole liberation theology that was refined by Dada in the latter days, and others before Dada coming down the line till that time. But he was the first because he spoke about, the black supremacy concept, the black wall and the white wall, and one was surrounding the other and snuffing out the other, and the black wall was going to rise up and be victorious. See, he also demanded of the Jamaican government that if they could not provide for the people and create better living conditions, that they should send them home to Africa. So much so that they turned it against him and made some folk tale about him and made him a laughing stock of society by saying that him tricking people and made them people sell out all of them belongings and waited on the bank and on the dock for ship to come pick them up when no ship wasn't coming. No, he demanded of the government, and he set a day that they would all gather at the dock as a symbolic move to show, just like how you'd march down to the police station or march to the parliament building or march to the White House, to show solidarity about a specific thing. He did that. Now, being so long-winded, I want them to know the history. So it never just begin with Garvey either, and it never just begin with Dada, and we have to be realistic about these things. And we have to acknowledge our ancestors that did what they did for us, and we can't be partial about it. See? So this is a man that taught a flock. Now, many of his flock became Rastafari. Man like Hines, Dunkley, Nathaniel Libert, whole heap of man became Rastafari that used to trade with him, that learned his concept. See? They were also Garveyites. So that is how the whole thing transitioned over into the early Rastafari movement until when Dada came now from those camp yard meetings, those road corner meetings, and Dada now helped to forge a unity. This is where the shepherding come in. This is where the uniqueness of Dada comes in, where he bridged government and spirituality, because our people being a religiously, branded people, because, coming out of slavery, we had no other hope but God. So we had to hold on upon religion, because that is all we had left, our faith. See? And that realizing the power of that and understanding the power of government, the power of structure, the power of parliamentary procedures. And as I was saying earlier to Daniel in reasoning, That is who taught I about the Admiralty and maritime law. When we talk about repatriation, repatriation falls on the Admiralty and maritime law because we were brought across the sea as cargo. We were insured as cargo through that whole maritime system and shipped across through the Admiralty principles. So those areas of law is where our freedom lie again. That's why in the latter days that I focused on the Seabed Authority that established themselves in Jamaica and the NEPAD meeting where they were discussing all these admiralty laws and changes and administration and so forth, because Dada understood these things. Something as complex as admiralty law and maritime law. King Emmanuel understood it. Same way I and I need to understand it. We need to discuss these things, not from just like the Virgin say and once keep coming back to the same space each time a Virgin give clarity. Ja Benton was giving that clarity. Ja Daniel gave that clarity. We all are trying to shed that clarity among each other, that we are not negating our spiritual power and our spiritual being. That's who we are. It's part of us. It's innate. That's why we don't have to worry about it. That's why we don't have to focus so much on it, because it's innate, my brethren and sisters. It's born in us. It's part of our construct. Let's focus on the things that we need, that we don't have. You know, let's focus on having a plan, because repatriation is a method. So to achieve repatriation, we have to develop a methodology. Our father has a 4-point plan. It's basic. It needs to be elaborated on. He did it as a template, not as a total document, because life is evolving and things have to evolve. So it's a template for I and I to look at, begin with, and build on, looking at 30 years later now, what needs to be in that document that is not? What greater understanding do we have today that needs to be applied to that document that makes that document greater than it was when it was constructed? It was a powerhouse when it was constructed because there was nothing prior to that. But today we are here in this space and time, you know, with more knowledge, more technology, more access to creating what we don't have or what we never had back then. Let's utilize it, my brethren. Give thanks.
Give thanks and glorify for bringing it up to that period, that time period, you know, the formation years of the Rastafari movement. You had books like the Royal Parchment Scrolls of Black Supremacy, which, you know, pointed us to His Majesty and showed us Black supremacy and all of these things, you know, which helps us to identify ourselves as African and to see our divinity and our connection to anciency and righteousness, you know, through the lineage of King David and all of these things. But now the movement to Africa part is kind of what separates Rastafari from a lot of different, you know, what do you call it, schools of thought, you know, Black organization, Black movements. Like I said earlier, some of these movements, you like say you have Hebrew Israelites, even some of the Hebrew Israelites even repatriated themselves to Africa, in South Africa and in Jerusalem, like the, you know, what we know as Israel today in the Arabian Peninsula, which is also part of Africa, same way still, but, you know, you had that movement. But, you know, the Nation of Islam and all of these other different schools of thought, they identify with Blackness and all of that, but they're not necessarily pointing ones to Africa. So that's what makes the Rastafari movement a bit different from the rest. Not to say that we're better than anyone else. We just, you know, that's one of our major tenets of our faith, is that, you know, repatriation is a must. And, you know, all of, when you read the Black Supremacy book itself, you don't really get so much religion in it. I mean, Dada does cover, you know, the Sabbath and certain aspects of understanding man right as God in flesh, but the majority of it is about human rights and about repatriation, you know, which, you know, shows me that King Emmanuel was not into so much worship as we are. You know, we worship him because he taught us certain things, but he himself seemed to be more about repatriation than anything else. And we have internalized it and kind of turned it into a religion more so. Like even the concept of repatriation, you know, besides saying repatriation is a must, and knowing that Dada wrote letters and all of these things, a lot of us don't really have much understanding on the term, the concept, the process, anything. We just know it has to happen, you know. And as a Congress who, not to say boasts, but we make it known that repatriation is a must, and that's one of our number one slogans. But when it comes to the congregation now, how many of us really have much information and education? How much of us do any research to really figure out how, you know? And that's a big thing, because if we're the ones that's supposed to be ushering in this great change, I think we should have a better grip on how we're going to go about doing that. And a lot more of our reasoning should be focused on, you know, the how of repatriation. This particular study group session is about what it is and history and all of that. Next week, we'll go into the how more so. But I'm just saying, as a house in general, we need to have more conversation and more planning with tangible action, you know, things that we could do when we're done. If we all come together and just say repatriation is a must, then when the reasoning is finished, we don't have nothing else really to do, except to tell more people that repatriation is a must. Yeah.
Yes,
So
my
anyway,
Lord.
I would like
I'm
to
sending
allow
everything a
others
blessed
to
love.
speak. Yes, Empress Maisie, you can
Yes.
go through.
Yeah. Yeah, my Lord. Give thanks, you know, for the reasoning going through and the study group from morning till now. Bobo, glorify. As you know, I keep silent, you know, and I'm giving thanks to all the words on that going through, you know, on the teaching still. A lot of things that I've heard right now, I didn't really hear them before. And so that's why I don't really want to trouble. I just want to listen and learn, you know, and to edify myself more about repatriation, you know, and its whole works, you know, of such fulfillment, my Lord. Give thanks to all strength and power, same way, and the teaching from the honorable priest, the elder, and the young ones, them who are impart their knowledge, you know, as you said, Daniel, you know, we need to do more research, you know, so we could learn more about, you know, repatriation that we are agitating for, you know. Yeah, our father, King Emmanuel, you know, from them time, from back into the days, into the 20s, that I have been agitating for such fulfillment, you know, of repatriation. I will give thanks to the honorable prophet, you know, who taught us to, you know, back to Africa, you know. Yeah, as one prophet or priest said, you know, it's not everyone they want to go back to Africa. And even the other day over the radio too, there was a discussion where so our brethren bring up repatriation, and they were talking about in this time, it's not everyone want to go back to Africa, right? Because some, as you said, some people have their big house and their big car and they settle down here. But there are others, you know, who really want to return back home. So, and the freedom is there, you know. So we give thanks to the agitation of our father from them time until this time, you know. Writing to heads of government, him never stop, you know. From Timber 1 to Timber 2, that I've been sending letter all over for such fulfillment. Because that is his work. If you hear that's reason, that don't now leave out repatriation, no time or time reasoning, no time or time reasoning. Yeah, you know? Yeah, because the man focus on repatriation. That's what it's all about. Repatriation, to get us home back. You understand? So we give thanks to the work of King Emmanuel, you know, give thanks to the work of Marcus Garvey, you know, give thanks to the work of King Selassie, you know, the three men will never disagree. They're all one on one accord. So my beloved brothers, you know, I give thanks. This is really a big topic, and I give thanks to the reasoning. Yeah, what happened today? glorify all strength and power. It's just I and I, because the Father said it, and it's just I and I, sons and daughters, to carry on the work, to agitate for such fulfillment. No matter what, and no matter how long it takes, it has to be done, and it must be done, and it shall be done. But it's just time at the master of everything. The time I come up here, agitating.
And if we not do
Yes.
it, Mama, man, say more rise up, go down stone if we not do it.
All
So
right, my Lord. Yeah. So we have to know what we are doing. We have to know what you're all about. Yeah, my Lord, give thanks again for these few words, honorable, blessed Lord, my Lord, and give thanks, my Lord.
That's the love, Mama.
I had a few notes I wanted to share, which I, reasoning with an elder who, he didn't really care to have his name put out there still, but someone who was very integral in governmental matters in the Congress still, who was close to King Emmanuel, told me, he said elders, them, the ones that, was there when he came, and even some of the item, like my parents, like Priest Dougie and Priest Maisie, the item contemporaries, never really imagined that repatriation would take so long. Even King Emmanuel himself never thought it would take so long, and that he would be here for, his final days in that particular flesh. He didn't think he would, leave us here still. And so there, with the thought that this is just around the corner, like Priest Dougie said earlier, he told us every year, next year we're going home, So you wouldn't, the overall understanding in the congregation, in the Congress, is that we're not going to do nothing too permanent here, because we're all about leaving here, you know what I mean? So we're not going to invest too much to establish in the West, we're not going to build too big of houses and live too, comfortable and things like that, because we're not getting comfortable here. The only development here is freedom, redemption, and repatriation. But over the years, as King Emmanuel realized, this isn't happening like how he might have, thought from the onset. He started to develop another approach and another understanding, and which we refer to it as migration scheme, But from what I understand, he told ones and ones that, like, if you planning on moving to the camp from foreign, go to Africa instead. Don't come to Jamaica, And also, when it comes to like your level of comfort now, and I'm sure Empress Maisie could reason, about this, because she shared with me before how she feels about this as far as like sending her children to school and stuff like that. How, ones and ones didn't really want to do stuff like that because they planned on leaving. But then after a while, you realize, no, we're still here. And our children, not just the children at school, but just in general, your life, you could be a little bit more comfortable while we do what we're trying to do to get out of the situation, And so he became a little bit more open to the idea of ones and ones. If you can go, then go. Yeah, and if you can send your children to a school or, prepare them for their future, then do it, Don't hold on, don't wait, because we don't know when it's really going to happen, when the governments might change their mind, or when Jah might, do his work and free us in whatever way is possible still. Yeah, but he mentioned that, this has been brought to the United Nations in regards to it being a human rights violation, which the United Nations said they couldn't really take on the case because, first of all, the EABIC is not recognized as a government by the UN. Even though we say we're a government within a government, the governments of the world don't recognize us as such because we don't meet certain criteria, like having land and, whatever, a certain amount of population, et cetera, so they couldn't really take us on like that. But what they told them is that if you could get a member state of the UN to represent your case, then they could, take it on like that. So then you know, the call, the movement now is based on that information would be to have ambassadors in different countries agitating to various governments at the same time, simultaneously, to get them all to bring the case to the universal or to the international Supreme Court, you know, and to have our case represented by them, since we can't do it ourselves, which is where we find ourselves now, is that we know these governments don't really care to send us back home, you know, genuinely they don't. That was never a part of their plan. So it would be on us to appeal to their conscience if we're ever able to make it work this way. We would have to get them to see some wrong, and also in their actions and their foreparents' actions, but also to get them to understand that, you know, we don't necessarily, we're not looking to fight with them. We just want to go home. That's it, you know. And eventually maybe they would, but we're not really banking on that still, because, you know, it's the same people that brought us here. Why would they want to send us home, you know? But yeah.
My lord.
Yes, sir.
One point here, Bobo.
All right.
Yes. Now you see, my lord, you mentioned the government, right? And Black people, right? Which government? Remember, so we are the hardworking ones, you know, in our country, right? Black people. We do the all kind of work. We build, we do everything. Now, which government are go on give us freedom for go back when them know say the workers them? Eh? I go gone. Yeah. Them not go on. Let us free. Yeah. But them are go carry it out to the end. But when the company ending at the day, my lord and empress, them have to give us for freedom. No matter how long them take. That's why that I tell me if it take a million a year, that I personally tell me, say, if the repatriation that we are agitated for and chanting for and hoping for to go home, if it take a million years to come up, we mustn't give up. Yeah, we must continue to have hope and faith that one day it will fulfill.
Mama,
right now, them holding up.
It have to happen. It have to happen, Mama. It have to happen.
Yes, it must happen.
Happen.
No matter how long it take. And you even have church people right now is preaching that redemption right now, but I don't know which one of the redemption them is talking about. But we know which one we are talking about, right? So no matter who and how long them take, it have to happen. It must happen. It shall happen. Most guys.
Yeah, Mama. Prophet that that's why I raised that little thing before I go forward, same. Just a little thing, same. You ask a question where Rastafari really declaring, how Rastafari really declaring repatriation. Rastafari declaring repatriation from in the beginning. Because from we know Psalms 87, as we start to look towards Africa. As all small island, not just Jamaica alone. Because when they question King Emmanuel in the tabernacle, you know, King Emmanuel tell Marcus Garvey been Rasta when he 13 years of age, you know. Because the whole world of the people are looking for Garvey as Rasta, you know. And Emmanuel stick. And Emmanuel set up on the throne, and Emmanuel said, Garvey was 13, when he was Rastafari. So Rastafari head creator. And for the brethren, the reasoning again, just now one saying evil wall. You have to remember the principle of the Sabbath, where the Sabbath govern. The opening Psalms of the Sabbath in Psalms 24. The earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof, the wall and they that dwell therein. So the wall could never be evil, you know? So it's just the word. Emmanuel Chad, forgive us repatriation, so that we could bust this year again. Because we're going to bust this year again and repatriate, because we have to fulfill the Bible. Prophecy and history have to fulfill. Haile Selassie come and fulfill Revelation 5. We have to fulfill the Bible as Bobo. Because many times I lie upon I bed and I vision, you over the seat. Bobo shanty part the seat. And a whole heap of Bobo in the middle walking, going home. If you see people So I know repatriation, this year for bus again. Because they ain't going to let us go just so. Give thanks for the word, my lord.
Yes, my Lord. Empress Maisie, were you done speaking? Okay. Prophet I know Jah, and then Prophet Jasi. Prophet I know Jah, you can unmute, my Lord.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress, Prince and Princess. All right, clarity, my Lord. Jah talk about the number one world, which is the world of right, and the number two world, which is the world of Satan, right? When me say that, me personally, me mean the evil world. This world that we seen is the evil world. You see, the number one world is the world where King Emmanuel trying to show us about, which was before the evil world. You see it? So that's why I meant. I didn't mean the earth. The earth cannot be evil. You see? But the world that we see now, and the governments of this world, and all of this, wherever going on now, that's the number two world. You see? That's the world of Satan.
I mean, pardon my Lord, you can unmute yourself. Press the wrong button. I know, Prophet, I know, Jah, you can unmute yourself. I didn't mean to do that.
My Lord, yeah, but that's what I was meaning. I didn't mean like the earth. The earth is the Lord and fullness thereof, and the world and they that dwell therein. But this world, the number two world, this world have to get fire and brimstone in this judgment. Just
Rastafari. Yes, my Lord. Honorable Prophet Carlton, my Lord, you had your hand raised. You can unmute yourself. Jah Carlton, my Lord.
Blessed love in the house again. Give thanks for another day. Give thanks for a new year. Once again, blessed love to one and all. Give thanks for our reasoning, going through repatriation, which is a must, as we say, but it's really about doing it and not talking it. And there's plans of action, King Emmanuel come to show us, like we've gone from the earlies to talk about Marcus Garvey, and his view on repatriation, and we have to even look at his works, and we looked at the good sides of things, There's also certain bad sides of things that, we have to look at Marcus Garvey and say, we have to, King Emmanuel even come and show us another way, learn as he come in a different time, come and learn on certain mistakes even. So even within repatriation, you talk about it internationally, being an international thing. And, like we say, we're kind of too religious, which I understand, because at the moment, we only seem to be seeing the churchical side of things. Within Bobo Shanti, that's what I come and see, that we are very churchical. But within a religion itself now, is a balance of church and state now. We know that Marcus was that man that coming religiously now, he had to come churchically, but he also come with that state power to show the black man that he can be in control of his own state, because we were being ruled by, whites at the time. So that being said, King Emmanuel come and show us, different moments upon his journey, like one say, the vision changed towards the end, we got the 4-point agenda, through enough letters go out now and certain replies come, so we have to change the method in which we go about it. So, everything is kind of set there for us, and I feel that, if we did stick towards that program there and do what was said, we would be in a better state, because many things out there, we're coming to the last of them, like we're saying, the world is getting more divided. So how are we going to look for a member state, to take us on? Queen Elizabeth is on her last legs right now. They say she have COVID and all. 90 something years, you know. Just say that is the last reigning monarch, British monarch. So I wonder, you know, what we gonna do for ourselves after, you know, what we go write for ourselves, you know, if we don't do what is written already, you know, because many of these things are gonna become obsolete, and we are missing out a kind of way to the end to see what, you know, everyone has to say, and we can't deny that we have missed out on a lot. You know, there are many people who have just come and start get a little injustice, and they're already compensated. They already get the money or whatever they're playing, their justice, whatever they wanted, and we are still here, you know, reasoning about it. So yeah, it's just a wake up call, really, that, you know, our leaders, you know, and those who are set to, you know, fulfill the mission, to come together and set the thing straight for us, because they have a lot of youths is trying to do certain works, you know, towards the UN. Even the other day, I was reasoning with a priest on the New Year's Day there in Africa. He's moved there last year, and, you know, he's telling me he want to approach the heads of government, but, you know, he don't want to make his work worth nothing, you know, and just be, you know, like another one who went to the head of government and sent a letter. We want our work to be worth something, so we have to be able to back each other up, you know, and these kind of things, get our government set and straight in order. So when we send out these letters, we'll be responsive, we'll do what's said, you know, we can follow up, you know, and fulfill the mission. So that is my few words, really, you know, that, you know, I want, you know, the government to set, so we can actually fulfill repatriation. You know, otherwise, you know, we can head to the continent, you know, because that's the way it seems like we're going. We can set up with a few brethren, or we can do it individually or with our family, and we can go there and we can live the liberty, try and set up a church and, you know, a state, you know, some works, and, you know, it sounds good, but is that the fulfillment of King Emmanuel's vision is the question, you know? So, yes, my Lord and Empress, give thanks for the, you know, letting Iman share my few words. Blessed love.
Yes, my Lord. Thanks for your part. Thanks for that contribution, same way. We have 3 hands, and I hear Priest Dougie wants to also reason. Ja Winston. So, you know, everybody just kind of keep time in mind as you reason. Ja Winston, Ja Seek, and then Priest Jermaine, and then Priest Dougie.
Blessed love to the royal family, near and wide, my Lord and Empress.
Blessed love, my Lord. Ja Winston?
My Lord.
You had your hand up?
Yes, my Lord.
Emmanuel,
Celeste, Ja.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Give thanks again for all the, you know, my lords and Empress, you know, give thanks to the elder, you know, give thanks for life, health, and strength.
That is very low. Can we hear? Can she come up a little bit more, please?
Give thanks for life, health, and strength. Honorable Empress Maisie, you know, give thanks for hearing the voice of Mama saying, you know, Queen of all queens, you know, same way. You know, I've been waiting for the eye to reason and block a sound, because I always have that respect for the elders seeing me as a, you know, a young empress, you know, a young mama, myself same way. Give thanks for the principles again, you know, that's from ancients of times, you know, the perfect behavior, the no tail bearing, you know, upright words one to another, you know, no lying, no slandering, so on and so forth. You know, give thanks again for the principles that's been every single day by the priests and the prophets, you know, give thanks again, my Lord and Empress. You know, give thanks again for, as the prophet, the priests and the prophets will say, you know, all that's been done, you know, giving thanks for the spiritual and the temporal, you know, help from ones onto another, you know, helping ourselves one onto another, temporally and spiritually, you know, to provide and fulfill our natural, domestic needs too as well. From ancients of time, from that time to this time here. So going forward now, moving forward now, in terms of reiterating what the Adam is reasoning about in terms of starting from Amnistad, we do have that overstanding, or I have that overstanding from even before that. As Marcus Garvey would say, a tree without the past knowledge of where they're coming from is like a tree with no roots. So we give thanks again from Mama Maisie, who say there's a lot of things she never heard of, and for ones and ones who know they themselves have never heard of certain things before this day of reasoning, So again, going forward and now to reiterating, starting from Amnistad times, it even goes before that, and ones and ones who even don't even know that it's went before even that time of Amnistad, which is still the spiritual, still coming forward straight to Amnistad, point of no return to as well. We also have to keep in mind, even walking with the chains and the bells and the whistles that they used to put on our ancestors as, we're reasoning on that part there where the roots were coming from, right? We didn't have, they didn't, or what they call masters, them times they didn't have the time to take shavers and shave our heads. So even walking through even certain times in captivity, in those times there, we had locks on our head. We had our precepts that we couldn't groom because why? We were shackles and chains and so on and so forth. And even before that, but again, we're reasoning about Amnistad coming up to this point and how everything was developed. We give thanks again for the natural spiritual. As for the, ones and ones who call the world the evil world and the earth is the earth, but the world is an evil world. Without the earth, there'll be no world. Right? So I mean, all of the I, in different generations, from that time to this time, is still all to ourselves. Okay? No one is no more than the other. So coming forward to this time here with reasoning about the Amnistad and the cotton picking and the empresses, pardon I, the times where, they used to try and evade the sharks, because all that areas there is Amnistad, and how they used to take our young ones, and the empresses used to get raped. And if the skin was too dark, they said, get rid of them, feed them to the sharks. All them areas there is all messed up. The times where, again, they didn't have the time to shave their heads and, to give each other strength to strength, they used to sing hymns and horses. They used to rock from side to side, even during the cotton picking field, on a 1-2, hymns and horses. We used to give each other strength to strength until that time where, they used to, the masters, who we call masters, them times there, used to say, stop singing, because they realized that's giving us too much strength. So going on further and further on to, the accomplishments, within the dark skin, again, what were the other countries doing and during such time that contributed towards that? Because it didn't just come within just the Caribbean by itself, right? So when you say international, Ethiopia, Africa, international, Ethiopia, Africa, Black International Congress, the international in terms of countries shall not be excluded. Because right now, how certain ones may be seeing it, they're not out to themselves, but they don't feel included because the excluded is in there. So how could ones and ones say international when you excluding and not including ones and ones from different countries who went through their literal actual ancients of times with locks on their head? Because why? Because the perception and the perception that is given within just America and the Caribbean, making other ones feel born in other countries in the physical, which is the temporal, is not being included in that history, that ancients of time history, right? So I mean, again, when ones and ones want to talk about, the evil world. It's actually the people themselves that evolved and came out of themselves, because the world is still the earth. So when you're moving forward now to this time here, when you're reading about Million Man March and the segregation, no black signs up or no blacks allowed, you can't walk on a sidewalk. You have an ego person depending on how dark their skin is, because the lighter their skin is, you're allowed to have special privilege because their skin is lighter.
Empress.
My lord, you hearing the Empress, Bobo?
Yeah, I was just gonna say 1 more minute, please.
So moving forward to that 1 more minute, wrapping everything all up with even coming to this you and I and going straight into spiritual, right? In terms of organizing, we have to keep all these things in mind, right? With all, including the principles, right? Because the principles is still, and the actual, principles within the Bible, right, is what created the laws of the land. And what's created the terminology of organizing and centralizing. We still have to keep all these in mind while trying to actually repatriation, even if it's individually. When ones go in, they should be able to actually establish something that just in case the repatriation is not happening the way how we want it as a collective, there's still ones over there still building, right? Because of that love of each other and that peace within them, their meditation, that the words of my meditation, be susceptible in Zion.
Holy Manuel.
So that's
Rastafari.
Mama, give thanks.
Give thanks for the voice of the Empress still, Honorable Jasik, and then Priest Jermaine, and then Jadoggy, and then Priest Kareem. So first, Jasik, Prophet Jasik, my Lord, you can unmute yourself.
Bless the love, my Lord, Empress, Prince and Princess.
Bless the love, Majesty.
Yeah, my Lord, repatriation, my Lord, back to home,
Sure.
Yeah, my Lord, the land, because we can't give away our island for our continent, my Lord. The land of plenty, the land of plenty. The land of wealth and glory, Ethiopia, Africa, my Lord.
Sure.
But this thing that plot against the black nation, my Lord, them nations come together and plot against Anai, my Lord. And put in slavery, my Lord.
Sure.
Take we land and we wealth and riches, my Lord. The Black Christ come, Marcus come, the Black Christ come and fulfill our work, my Lord. Means nothing again America do to get repatriation from the other government, my Lord. And if you know that works you can do for the white world to give away repatriation, my Lord, which is the evil world. The number 2 world is the white world. The number 1 world is the black world. That I, righteousness and salvation. Number 2 world is the evil world, which is the white nation. So you're talking about the nation and the people, not really land market itself, but the people, But it was a plot against another black nation, my Lord. When the Black Christ come now, my Lord, the Black Christ fulfill, he works, my Lord. He makes sure the gospel spread forward in the earth. That was his mission too, even in Africa too. They make sure the gospel reach out to be brothers and sisters in Africa, Ethiopia. And the Black Christ come and fulfill all that, So in this time, we come and see now, going forward now, concerning repatriation, my Lord and Empress. The manly way, the 4-point plan and these things. We see right now the head of government ain't really listening to Anna, my Lord. Because, it's perilous right now. Pharaoh don't want to free you, my Lord. So I come and see now divine intervention where, the Black Christ will have to come again, my Lord, to deliver Anna out of this basing plan here, my Lord. I tell you the real thing, my Lord, because you see, we only fight or we only defend is spiritual warfare. We can't go and pick up no arms and ammunition. No. We only fight is spiritual warfare.
Sure.
Fasting and praying, preparing for the Lord as Christ teach we Israelites. Prepare for your maker. Clean hands, pure heart, the bride love, hold on to laws and commandments, and try and keep pure.
Sure.
When he come now, the fire ain't gonna really kindle upon Anai. It will not power over Anai, but it will kind of go feel the fire. Christ even say Gentiles, which is evil, wicked, white, will prepare for war. Because Christ nobody come again. All these battleships, what they have out there, my Lord. Christ done see them from a long time, He don't know they're trying to kill God from since them time, my Lord. It's a hypocritical system living in, my Lord. The Queen of England, she herself say, there's a man in Jamaica who no one is to molest. for in time to come, which is now, time is now, he shall be Lord over whole lords. And they still come to Bonang Emmanuel camp. They still try to kill Emmanuel, they still try to do them things. So they're talking one thing, like a lamb, and then they're moving like the beast.
Sure.
We know this is Babylon kingdom we're living in right now, the fourth kingdom, which is Babylon, what mixed with iron and clay. But we know it can't hold for too long. And Babylon time is at hand. Time is at hand, my Lord. These days when I tell you the real thing, my Lord, it's judgment time, my Lord. Just soon coming, my Lord. No man know the time of the hour, no man. But when you watch the prophecy, my Lord, that's why the prophecy must be included, which is the Holy Bible. It must be included.
Sure.
Because the prophecy is real.
Sure.
So when we watch the prophecy, now we link prophecy and history. That is very powerful. You get the vision clearly.
Sure.
Because prophecy and history go hand in hand.
Sure.
As the Black Christ teach me. So we come and see time is at hand, my Lord. What am I do right now? You will prepare for the Lord, my Lord.
Sure.
You will prepare for the Lord, because we come and see the Black Christ, my Lord, the man plea to all heads of government and nothing they do for I, my Lord.
Sure.
But I want like a small thing before my time up, Yeah, my Lord, from the Black Supremacy book. I want to read it quickly. Since creation of earth, the black man has made no war or has enslaved any nation. Yet everyone has come and brutalized us. Just Rastafari. While others stand aside and watch and talk, but no action to defend justice. Such behaviors make the United Nations look like the planning ground for the Europeans and Americans to subdue the other nations of the world instead of giving equality and justice. So we live in a world with Satan, my Lord. These people are never come to free, but we know we call upon the Black Moses. Holy Manuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Bless him, my Lord Empress.
Blessed love, honorable. Yeah, he said the voice of the people is the voice of God. So when we pray for this divine intervention, we just have to realize the divine is internal, not external. So any divine intervention would just be to awaken the Christ consciousness in all of I and I, not just in one man. We look often for one man to do all of the work or to get all of the credit, but King Emmanuel, tried to show us the God in ourselves, even though we're reluctant to realize it and understand what the man mean. We're still looking for God to come again. We are God and Goddess, we are it. And if we can see that in ourselves, then we really have some chance of our faith being fruitful. Otherwise, if we're looking for some God somewhere else to do everything for us, we might be waiting for some time still. Anyway, call on Priest Jermaine, and then Priest Dougie, then Priest Kareem, and then Empress Cindy.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress. Give thanks for yet another blessed day of evening again. I just want to ask the Honorable Priest to him coming after I, man, about the mission to Africa, in terms of when the other did send off the ones and ones to Africa.
The Gospel Bells mission. Bowo.
Find out from the eye, like the factors that made it unsuccessful, and behind that, I would love to, the eye to interject with how we can make it a success,
Well, that's for the next program still, the how to. Right now, we're just talking about what it is and bringing it up to the present, but it's a relevant and pertinent question, but it's a two-part repatriation reasoning, my Lord. So next week, we'll get into how in the present and future, we can do better.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But the first question regarding the Gospel Bells mission is very much on topic for today's session. And I was going to bring that forward too, so I'm glad you did. And Priest Dougie was the next one to have his hand raised anyway. So, my Lord, I'll just give the floor for now.
Yeah, give thanks.
Give thanks, Priest Kasha. Priest Dougie. He might be away from his phone right now, in which case we'll come forward to that question. I'll give Priest Kareem the floor, and we'll wait for Jadagi to come forward. Priest Kareem, you can unmute yourself, my Lord, and reason.
Blessed love, royal family. Give thanks again for another 6 days labor now upon us, you know. And, you know, may the good God of our mercy, you know, grant us all divine providence in all our endeavors, you know, for our kingdom, you know, and, you know, for ourselves, same way too. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. My Lord Empress, you know, give thanks for the topic of repatriation, you know, is a topic that is on our mind every day, you know, that we are about it every day. Every day is in our meditation, you know, because we await that hour, we await that time, you know, when we can go over on the golden shores and live with our father and mother, you know, and our Black royal family forevermore, free from all oppression, free from colonialism, imperialism, free from all the prejudices of the evil world, you know, because as Jah show we, you know, the world was black before there was a white world, you know, before the white world come in and bring in their settings, you know, on this earth where our Father of creation create, you know. Yes, the world was black, you know, and it is a black righteous world. You know, give thanks for that black righteous world. We're still in the black man and in the black woman. As the father say, you can take the man out of Africa, but you can't take Africa out of the man. Well, Emmanuel, I,
Selassie,
Jah, Rastafari.
Rastafari.
Yes, give thanks for our worthy founder, leader, president, God and king. You know, the black Christ, Melchizedek. You know, the black dictator of repatriation. You know, give thanks the man come over there, you know, in Jamaica, you know, and, you know, the man ever fight for the freedom, you know, of his people. You know, you ever fight for our redemption and our repatriation, you know. The man stand for these rights, you know, and give thanks that when the man come, you know, the man declare himself, you know, to the world of people and to all the heads of governments, you know, to the Jamaica heads of government, you know, and to the United Nations, you know, and give thanks for our God and King, you know, our Godhead, you know, in Ethiopia, who acknowledge the man spiritually, you know, as his son, you know, for have the man name written down in his quotes, you know, and his Rasta as the only ambassador to the West. You know, give thanks in 1969 when the emperor did forward, you know, to visit the man and the camp yard. Really, my lord?
66, 69?
Give thanks. 1969,
70.
Oh, give thanks for the correction, mama. Yes. When the man come and pay a visit to the man up at the camp yard.
Okay.
You know? So it show, you know, that the man is the same one. You know, the father hand over the power unto King Emmanuel, that, you know, the people should be handed over to King Emmanuel. Same way too, he leave documents with the Jamaica government. You know, that the people should be handed over to King Emmanuel so he could take us home, he could bring us home. Same way, you know. The Jamaica government was supposed to reveal the Black Christ to the people of Jamaica and to the world, but them never did. Them hide the man, you know, from the people. Same way too, you know. And that is a part of the sabotage of our repatriation also. Yes. So we give thanks, you know, that the man still fight, you know, and I hear the topic come up about the Africa mission, which I would personally like to know more same way too. So we would have to wait, as the Honorable Jose, for the next session in the coming strong. The next
No,
coming
no,
strong.
that's not what I meant.
Oh,
We could talk about the gospel belt. This mission, this program is about the past. The next program is about the future and the present. So the gospel bells mission is definitely a part of this reasoning. It's just that we have to wait for Priest Dougie to come forward to share.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My Lord, give thanks. So yeah, I would like to know more same way too, because when reasoning, we have elders, give thanks for all our elders, and when you reason to one elder and you reason to our next elder, you will get a similar version, but everyone will give you a little different thing, One will tell you no migration scheme, and next one will tell you, yes, just say we can go over, and go and do we thing from there, Yeah.
Agitate.
You see, so it would be good to know exactly, how we approach this situation. From the culture where I get about repatriation, in regarding to how everything is situated right now, how many years now, from since 1993, the father make a move,
94.
Give thanks
31st
again,
of
Mama.
May.
Give thanks again, Mama. Yes. So from 1994, the father make his move. And, the Congress is, we all know how the Congress situated right now in regards of how it's supposed to function. I know the Congress, in Jamaica, the headquarters, where it is a embassy. And I know any people anywhere in the world, especially America people, if they're going through something in a foreign land and they have an embassy in that land, everyone run go to the embassy to seek refuge, and help, so them can get out of whatever situation, because the embassy are the only one that really can protect them from the harm or any injustice from in the foreign land where they're at, So I see that the embassy really need to function, up to par. And to do that, it need angel strength, you need one strength, And I'm saying I couldn't just wait on somebody in the land of Jamaica to do that, to take up that role. We couldn't just wait for somebody because they're not coming to the camp yard. I couldn't sit back and say, oh, what happened to the man over there? If it's so important for and it is, then I should be there also for help. In what way I can help, if it's the collective, are looking for the collective strength, the collective gathering, because even as the I say, the nations of the world don't recognize us. Well, I don't really, business what the nations of the world recognize, because they have done injustice and still doing injustice to the black world this day. And just like Moses went to Pharaoh, and he bring up the matters to Pharaoh, we read it in the scripture, Pharaoh still didn't want to recognize the God of Moses, He never want to recognize until he get licked with plague and pestilence and judgment, and then when his heart was softened a little bit, his heart opened up enough to say, you know what, go about your business, go about your business, go where you want to go, and even after that, he still come after the people. Yeah, so I mean, really into what the people, the world, the governments and the nations recognize, because they know who we are. They know who exactly we are, and they know the injustice what they do, because when they read the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights Charter, Article 1, they know exactly that they haven't fulfilled Article 1 up to now, in regards to how they treat the Black world and the poor nations of the world, same way too.
Yes, my Lord.
Yeah, so it's just up to I to know where I stand and work on I development. Give thanks for the ones who going home, straight home, to agitate from there, and give thanks for the ones who agitate from here. What I'm saying is that we have an embassy, and I know the situation, things come up that we don't like, and it shouldn't come up, because man of right is God in flesh, woman of right is goddess in flesh, men of wrong are Satan in flesh, and women of wrong are Satan is in flesh, and anyway the army there, Satan follow. So things come up that we're not too like, that, ones wouldn't really want to go there. But the man, as the father say, the greatest thing a one could do is lay down, the greatest form of love a one could show is lay down his life for the brethren. And just like how the father laid down his life for us, we should lay down our life, for the brethren, same way too, and
Sorry, timing, just kind of wrap it up still.
My lord, yes. So we should lay down our life for the brethren, same way too, because the father done set everything, King Emmanuel don't do everything. The only thing that need to be done is for I to live up to the ordinance where the man said, to the 100% fullness in a togetherness. And in a speech, in a speech that I heard read by a priest on a radio program, on a cassette from a radio program, I don't remember what the honorable priest's name, but he said that 7 months of Naya being Giada, with fasting and prayer, and you will see what the Black Christ can do. Holy Emmanuel, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. My Lord and Empress, that's my
Give
2
thanks,
cents.
my Lord.
Yeah,
Give
thanks
thanks.
for your contribution, my Lord. Yeah, when I said about the government's not recognizing us as a government, it's not to say that we should stop doing what we're doing. It's just to say that they're not going to hear our case directly from us. That was the point of that. Anyway, Priest Dougie, can you speak about the Gospel Bells mission before we go on to the next hand that's raised?
Yes, my Lord. Yeah, and I was already in the line. So sorry, I have to deal with something. Apart from taking this back a little bit, Dada took up the job of Marcus Garvey, and he was structuring his government in a constructive way. He had organized an ambassadorial program to do the very same thing that I heard being spoken about earlier. I was waiting to comment on, where the ambassadors from different regions, different countries, so forth, their duty would be to agitate to their government, put I case to their government, to deal with the demographics in that region. You understand? Doing the very same thing that we do in Jamaica, the very same methodology that the father was using, each ambassador was to implement. That means addressing heads of government on the issue of repatriation, putting the case the way we were taught to put it. So there was a methodology that the father was using. This was not a random thing, and this was not just about praying. Praying is for personal fortitude, It's about personal strength. We get that. But the personal strength that we get is to go out and do what we have to do. You understand? Now, the Gospel Bells mission was a practical program. You know, looking now, let us be pragmatic, as we've been saying all morning. Let us look at things from a realistic point of view. Iman is a leader, you know, the Black Christ, you know, my work. I am here to do on a mission to do a work. The work is a time-sensitive work because at a duration, my time ends. When I realize that my time is coming close and a level of the mission is still to be implemented, then I am forced to increase my intensity towards that mission. So with the Father realizing that certain fullness was happening, you know, which means repatriation itself wasn't coming as soon as he thought it would, as the Virgin had said earlier when he spoken to the other elder, you know, that the elder remembers the Father saying this. And I too remember that, you know, that we didn't know that he would have done it so long. See? So in realizing that his time is nigh, where his tenure is about to be up, Jah implemented the practical thing. He broke with tradition, which the tradition was no migration, which it was not say. And to be practical, look up the word repatriation and the word migration, and you're going to see there is it's almost identical explanation or definition. Okay, movement of people, whether a person, a group, or entity from one location to the next. Seeing whether in mass numbers, and the both of them say the same thing, whether in numbers or singular. Seeing, well, what the Father did, he broke with the concept of the word, that what the word meant at that time to them, migration. Migration just means that any man can move from here to this. So repatriation means that the displaced would be returned. Okay, so the Father decided to send some ones ahead, the Gospel Bells mission, to set these embassies to receive I and I. See, that means the ones were to go down and do their due diligence, you know, interface with the government, make sure that there is dialogue on immigration status, you know, identify lands that I and I could assume whether by purchasing or whatever means, you know, and start to set up infrastructure. So when there is infrastructure in place now, we can now start to implement what we can call now the repatriation program, which is phases. There is phases to it. So that was one phase. The ambassadors going down to establish offices and embassies to start the work, the underground work there, building the bridge, seeing. And so that has that is the stage that we are stuck in for the last 30 years. Now, repatriation being a program, that program has to have a means of funding. You send ambassadors overseas to do your bidding. Them have to have support. There has to be a way to financially support the mission. Seeing the ambassadors have been abandoned for several decades on their own. So whatever growth and development we see taking place in Africa is because some great men went down there and did their part, while we still see bubbles spreading on the continent and camps popping up. See, it's not because the program was effective or we put the Father's program to work as he had set it up. So the Gospel Bells mission, the soldiers were to set up these camps. They were supposed to be a support system in the West that did whatever was needed to keep the program going. So whatever information that was sent to the Congress from overseas, there was supposed to be a set of ones in place to verify that information, to utilize that information according to whatever government procedure it needed. See, none of those avenues have been functional. See, so the only aspect of the gospel mission that has been functional is the fact that Virgin landed on the continent. They did establish encampments. Some still exist today. Some have grown and scattered and developed across different regions. That's basically my Virgin. If there are specific areas of it that they want to know about, that I did not touch on, them can ask specific questions, which is what I would love to hear. Some specific questions, because that would tell I that the item is thinking about the process and not just romanticizing the word, So,
My Lord.
Questions.
Yes, Honorable. I was the one who asked the question earlier, same it. And, I had one. I was fortunate to reason with Douglas Mack, the author of that book From Babylon to Rastafari. He used to be a co-host on a radio program, and we call him up and stuff like that. Isn't that same mission what that held out from in '61 when the government sponsored that, and the Rastas, as we know, they wasn't able to give an account for themselves, yeah, to write the report or whatever. Through the Jamaican government, had once went along with them, they came back and actually write the report, and it was, misleading in many ways. Yeah, but the mission itself, you know what I mean? What are the intricate details of why, some of the things didn't go through the way it was supposed to go through? Like, for instance, the Honorable Priest Paul, he's still in Ethiopia, doing what he has to do. One's in Ghana, Priest Banik and ones like that in Ghana, still there, but yet the mission, is like it's put on a hold. What are some of the intricate details of why the mission is the way it is right now? And like my Lord said, the next program, I guess you could answer the next question, my Lord.
Chris Dougie.
Yes, my Lord. To really touch on that question, see, the fullness of this thing is that without structure, there is, chaos. Chaos is when everybody just doing their own thing and there is no order to what we are doing, which is what is going on right now. That's the best I can say about that aspect. The ones on the continent, they are doing what they're supposed to do, They are doing what they're supposed to. The priest Paul was sent home to become an African, He wasn't sent home to be something else, Being something else only means something out here, But when we go home, when we reach home, we're going home to learn what it is to be an African. You understand? And that is what he went home and did. He assimilated into the Ethiopian country that he is now the first legal citizen that returned home from the West. So he did what he was supposed to do. He made the Congress proud when you look at that specific act. Not talking about anything else, that specific act. Same way in Ghana, you have Turks, you have the Honorable Priest Banek, you have the Honorable Priest Abuna, all soldiers that surviving there on the continent, doing the best they can do to represent us the best way that they can, without any support. So the failure of the mission is lack of support. If they had want the clear answer, lack of support. Support would come, and I'm not saying no, we are withholding support, spitefully. There is no support because there is no entity to coordinate the support. That's the problem.
My Lord.
And so until we sit down and do our Father's business, put aside whatever it is that is keeping us from sitting down together, because it doesn't matter the level of education, it doesn't matter the level of information that one might know, as long as there are those of the others of us that have that information, you have to look at it that all of we have it, because we are one Congress. So we sit down together as family, seeing, and deduce together what it is we want to do about this mission. Is repatriation still our ultimate goal? And if that is so, then let's put pen to paper. Let's stop imagining this thing and stop. Faith is great, you know. Faith is great, my brothers, you know, and sisters. Faith is great. It is what get us through some of the most trying times. But it's not getting to an individual moment, you know. This is about a physical act with a tangible outcome being sought. We are trying to leave from one space to another space. Now, tell us something. Are we romanticizing this? Do we want to go to Africa to struggle more than how we're struggling where we are at right now? Yeah, we love Africa, you know, and that is not what we're asking. See, nobody's trying to say, well, this one love it more than that. No, we are just reasoning realistic. No. Are we wise enough to set up systems and programs like any other nation has done when they have migrated to regions? Everywhere you go in the world, you know, you have a Chinatown, you know. Any first world country, you have a Chinatown set, and that's what it's called, Chinatown, and they have total loyalty to China. No, do we understand what it takes to leave one spot and go to another spot and assimilate into that area? This is a real tangible move. It takes consciousness. We have brethren down there. They have identified land. So it is for now a group, a council, whatever you want to name it, give it, a representative body to the follow-up Gospel Bells mission there, to assemble a voyage and head to the continent to look at the lands that are there. Some have already been purchased and owned by I&I. In Ghana, there's 40 acres of land that Priest Ruger was safekeeping for I&I. Priest Ruger recently, not too long, passed away. So I don't even know who is on the land safekeeping it at this moment. But we have 40 acres down in Ghana there, just sitting down. Okay. In Ethiopia, Priest Paul has identified and secured land. He's a member of the council there, so he has access to land. I mean, real access, because a foreigner can't own land in Ethiopia. You have to be a national, that means born and bred there, not a repatriate. See, Priest Paul, because of his status, has that status, has that right. So he has access to land there. See, there's land all over. See, so we need to identify that. Now we go and we decide, now how are we going to develop this land for return needs? See, so we identify a funding source. We need a funding source.
My Lord.
Funding source have to be here.
Priest Doug.
Yes, sir.
Let me stick up in there, because you're going into the next realm of the reasoning as far as the future and what we need to do. And we had a few hands that was raised. So let's get those, let those ones speak before we go any further there. But give thanks, you did answer the question.
Yes, my Lord, give thanks.
Honorable Empress Cindy, yeah, I can unmute.
Blessed love, my Lord and Empress. Well, I feel that this topic is a vital topic that we all need to keep in our meditation. But since you said that this is going to be a two-part series, I guess I could leave my question for the next strong, because my question is that, yes, we need to repatriate. And that's something that we've been talking about for years. Even before I was born, we've been talking about it. And my question is that once we get on the land, once we step foot on the soil, what are we going to do to be of service to the people over there? It's not just about going over there and being in the land of our foremothers and forefathers. It's what can we do to be of service over there? How can we develop, the countries in which we would like to repatriate to? Because not everybody's going to repatriate to the same country. People are in Ghana, people are in Gambia, people are in Ethiopia, people are in South Africa. So what can we do to be of service is my question. And lastly, I would like to say is that in the words of Muta Baruka and other elders, it's no good to stay in a white man's country too long. Give thanks.
Rastafari. Give thanks.
Thanks for the word, Mama. Thanks for the word.
So we'll stick a pin at that question and we'll answer that. You know, next Sunday, Jah willing, we, you know, live that long and are able to come together again for the reasoning. But give thanks for the question is very relevant and very.
We will, Chuja. We will.
All right.
Yes, my Lord. Give thanks again for the reasoning. Jehovah's cutting and clear and good to know. Say, my Lord, I just want to touch a little topic. Great is the man and the woman that published the word. I'm a lecturing in the college. I teach in Marcus Emmanuel Selassie and Empress Menin. Jehovah's, you know, everything in them I teach, you know. And I think is, you know, educating the youth and them. I think this chat is about educating the youth and them. Generation unto generation will declare this mighty act, my Lord. And another thing again, another quest, another meditation again to the powers of the chalice, my Lord. I'm a builder. I'm a licensed builder. I'm an international builder. I can read English and metric, my Lord. I build building, my Lord. Jehovah's, you know why they do form a delegation and get I for going to the documents, reason to the government and them official, Jehovah's, because I have right in Ghana to the president of Ghana come here and I give him a letter and I have right there. But as I to go to him now and to fulfill certain things and start to measure up the land them and start to build, because I'm a builder, my Lord, Jehovah's. And if we don't organize ourselves in the farm there, Jehovah's, nothing ain't go on. And we ain't going home in Africa just for build house and build and all them things there. We're going to Africa to teach King Emmanuel.
Natural.
We're going, it's not in a house. We ain't coming for house and car for the people. We come for the people them. Because you come for the people them. So we come for the people them. And if we as Bobo who in South Africa, because when you talk Africa, I live international country. Africa is a big place. Even Bobo they here and Bobo they over there, it will take years and months before you see the Bobo them over there. Because Africa is a big continent, my lord. You know, so you no need to rush and fight. You could have different apartments in Africa, different ways in Africa. So I get to the school in Africa. I get to the school in my country. I don't get no vaccine. I don't take no test, nothing company. And I did in the college teaching King Emmanuel, my lord. You over the seat. But because of the letter of the Congress, you over, you know. So if we hold them powers there, we have to go home and teach you over and away. We can't run from the people them because we come for the people them. Whether white or black, we come for the people them. Just come for all the people them because just take the white man and put him on the altar same way, like a white bubble. We ain't discriminating no flesh rasta. We come
repatriation, my lord.
Yeah, to my lord. We come to repatriate the whole multitude as international repatriation. So we have to go home and start to dwell with the thing. Farmer delegation with builders, you know, electrician, technician, all them things there. Farmer delegation, we could go home and we could start to dwell with it because we could create the money there while we there home and start to build things over the same way. Because we can build things over there, sell things over there, create things over there. We need builders. We need foundation because the commandment of the Most High says so, you know. With all his furniture, you know. With all his furniture, the lava under his feet, you know. The man tell the coats of his servants and the holy garments of Aaron and the priests. So we need a foundation, a group. We need bakers. We need a man who could bake bread, a man who could bake cake. Because we could hustle cake and bread and all things in the community where we do. We need active people, my lord. Not people just to go in there and sit down and ain't doing nothing.
True.
As so the elders, them in Jamaica and them getting elder and them ain't going home because we ain't making a way for them. We have to make a way for these people, my lord.
So true. Yes, I.
Over the elder them chatting off the earth and them never see Africa, my lord. We have to cut out all them things. We depend too much of hism and schism. We have to start to go home.
Sure.
You overscale home builders, forget where your country you come from. Because a man's skills, you push him the years bobo, you're anointed. You send him home, we start to work, we start to cut timber, we start to build things, we start to save the money and gather the people and passport and things so they come in. Open shop, open bars, open restaurant, everything. Because we have a wine factory. Rasta, we have to go in and start to put our foundation there. Don't go in and run in the mountain, you know. We have to go in the tongue and face in the government and them and start to take over the place and them because we have documents. Bobo Shanti have documents, my lord, and we must use them documents. Give thanks to the word until such time
My
again.
Lord.
My Lord, bless the love, Mama. Until such
My
time.
Lord.
Bless the love, my Lord.
Adorable.
My Lord.
Yes, my Lord.
Yeah,
Honorable.
I heard that Rawlins, the president, used to be the former president of Ghana. You know, when Bobo Shanti contacted him, you know, he really deterred them from the church vibe. You know, he said Africa has enough churches. You know, so we have to be practical and really, you know, thinking beyond kind of some of these religious concepts.
My lord, that's why we have to go in. That's why we have to go in Africa as builders and tailors and seamstresses.
Yes, sir.
That's why we have to go in with them kind of powers there. When we go in with them powers there and we set the business, the Congress done there already. Because when you talk of Congress, you know, you talk
my Lord.
everything in the world, you know, Bobo. Everything in the world make up a Congress, you know. We have everything. Church, everything, Bobo. We have it. So we go in and start to dwell with the thing for the hell of them, because the hell of them, they out there. Then go love to see Africa. We making money, you over and we taking with money and we scandal it, we invest in it.
Yes, my Lord.
Together, my Lord.
I was in agreement with the eye, still just, you know, giving another, you know, word
give thanks, my Lord.
build on the concept.
True, my Lord.
Yes, I.
It's a love.
Yes, I.
Yes, my Lord. Powerful talk, you know? Yeah. And even straight back to going home. Yes. And I'll go home as teachers to teach back Africa. You know? Of his principles. Yeah.
Mama. I feel you.
The kind of work and teaching, our Father teach us, you know? Them are gonna see and just bring everything to our night. We're not even gonna have time to take over because everything are gonna be ours. You know, the principle, the salvation what we bring to them, you know, bring back them liberty, you know, and everything. You know, see it. It are gonna just be blessed, you know, and we give thanks to that. You know, and one day, every day we draw nearer home. And we must agitate. Now, speak about ambassadors, right? We have ambassadors all over. Now it's for them to work, you know, and start to agitate. Now, if every one of our ambassadors that we have in our country start to write a letter to their government that they have, and the government them start to see that letters coming from left, right, and center, what do you think? They're not going to discuss it? Yes, we are going to discuss it. And it's just that one letter, several letter back a letter, let them see, say, oh, these people serious now. You know, see, and we have to put the repatriation on the table. But if we don't send them all, look at one letter, this a year, next year we not send them none, and they're not going, them people are not serious. But when we start to send them letter, serious letter, back at one another, we start to agitate. Naturally.
Give thanks and press.
Okay, that's it, love.
Yes, all right. But we're going into the reasoning for next week when we start talking about what we need to do in the future and things. So if we're at the end of the reasoning for today, then we just, you know, stop to start again. We'll ask if there's any closing remarks that anyone has. You know, I'll open the floor for closing remarks, and then shortly thereafter we'll close the program.
Thanks, my lord, for the word.
Yeah, bless the love, my Lord and Prince and Princess.
Bless the love, Majesty.
Yeah, man, give thanks for another study group, you know. Give thanks for the brethren session. Give thanks for the love, you know.
Sure.
As the Black Christ say, you know, flesh change, but the spirit of evil remains the same. Only the black Ethiopian of heaven, and there's but one Zion. Any flesh to be saved must return with us to our heaven. So last year, Jah, Rastafari, blessed love, my Lord Empress.
Blessed love, Majesty. Give thanks, Jasi, my Lord. Jaran, you had your hand up from such time, my Lord. You can unmute yourself. Pardon me. I didn't call on you earlier.
Blessed love, blessed love. I just want to say, give thanks, heart of love. Thanks for the Saturday coming by, heart of celebration. Give thanks for the reason as I came in kind of late, but I just want to say thank you for the topic and everything like that. I will sign in again next week, and I will be on time. Blessed love. Give thanks for life.
Thanks, my Lord. Thanks for even being here for whatever time you could be here still. Closing remarks. Anyone, everyone.
Thanks to the Lord, my Lord. Holy Manuel, I Selassie, Jah, Rastafari, the Almighty. 7 words of love. God is love. Let us all love. Neither shall receive us, and neither shall not deceive us. Repatriation is a Messiah. Give thanks again, Bobo. See you.
My Lord, give thanks.
Yes, my Lord and Empress, give thanks for yet another blessed day of reasonment. It was very informative. You know, I man get to even learn something same way too. So give thanks to all hearts, give thanks for one black love, and give thanks for the universal, message that he even going out, Give thanks for the Honorable Prophet Daniel and the works that, him doing even through the African Liberation Network. Yes, my Lord and Majesty, give thanks.
Thanks, my Lord, for their presence and their contribution to the program same way. Yes, floor is open. All right.
Hey.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. Empress Maisie.
Blessed love.
Oh, blessed love. Rastafari.
Voice of the future.
Yeah, you just automatically smile when you hear that sound.
Voice of the future, man. Nothing better than that song. That's hope in its highest,
I believe in now, sir. Blessed love.
Blessed
Blessed
love.
love, angel.
Blessed.
Yeah, glorify. Yes, my Lord. Blessed love to one and all. Give thanks again for the reasoning. Blessed love, my Lord. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Empress. All right. Yeah. Well, if nothing else, then we'll just, seal up. Honorable Priest Dougie that I opened it, that I could close it with the prayer.
Yeah, we give thanks for all said and done, Give thanks for all inspiration. We ask the Father to give us the zeal to fulfill his work, His will be done on earth as it is in Zion. Yeah, in the evening, I and I with our infirmities, we draw nigh. What if thy farm and I cannot see? We know, we don't have to feel, we know that thou art here among I and I. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie.
Yeah.
And I ask the Father to keep, guide, protect, bless everyone in their place of abode. To guide everyone through the next, work week, safely to another Sabbath and to another discussion next weekend as a family. Through his mercy and his love, Most High. Holy Emmanuel, I, Selassie. Bless us all.
Let us guide our own destiny to Ethiopia, Africa for the Africans, those at home and us abroad. Give thanks, my Lord and Empress, for the reasoning, on repatriation. Give thanks for everyone's contribution. Give thanks for all those watching, on YouTube. And, give thanks for the study group. And until such time that we can reason again, our strength and powers, our guidance and protection, going out and coming in. My Lord and Empress, blessed love.
Blessed love, give thanks, John Daniel.
Bless the love, Empress Cindy. Give thanks.
Bless it.